Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Author's Quill. I hope everyone's having a great afternoon in the United States and wherever else you're on our big, beautiful planet. I know for some people it's morning time, some people it's way early in the wee hours, some people it's in the evening time. So wherever you are listening, I hope you enjoy it. I know for our Brits right now it's 9 o'clock over there. So hey, 9 p.m. Oh man, y'all at the pub drink. You're not even listening to us. Y'all some darts, just a couple of pints. No. I know what's going on over there. But just to tell you how the real world is, a couple of times I've been in restaurants and stuff lately, and they'll have like Roku up on their screen. And when they do, I ask them if I can have the remote, and they say yes. I put United Public Radio up there. So, like yesterday, I ordered Brooklyn Pizza on my way home. I was making everybody in Brooklyn Pizza Place watch whoever was on. I think it was Church of Mavis was on. So they were having a good old time watching and enjoying themselves. And I don't know what to tell y'all, people. It's one of them things. Oh no, Carrie, that one's been given away. Yes, I need to take it down. It's been given away. I got two others, but I don't know what I'm doing with them yet. No, one of them we're going to give away amongst a group of hosts, and I think the rest of the other one's going to get given away at some point in the future. What do you mean give it away on Easter? No. It's not going to happen, so don't worry about it. But it will for some reason. Maybe our first pay-per-view listener will get it as a freebie gift or something. Who knows? Well, no, I give away books all the time. I'm just out right now. Everything behind you is autographed. All this stuff around here, that's all personal autographed copies from different people, different stuff, from writers of the futures. All when they all sign the autograph, and then I get a lot of family members to sign and a lot of friends. Well, whoever's there, if I see somebody, and I get them, because they all got to autograph the book in the signing. They get it's a couple of hours, and it's actually signing books, and then of course all the judges sign it. Well, some of the judges are actually friends of mine now, so I get personal signings from them. And then I'll catch at the gala event. I'll bring some books with me, and I'll catch like different family members. Well, yeah, because I'll walk right up to a family member. Hi, I interviewed your son or your daughter, blah 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 blah, and just ask them a few questions and get them to sign the book. Well, it's just no, it's not for anything. It's just to have it. Well, maybe one day if somebody gets famous in the book, like Zack might make $2, $3, $10 million or something, then everybody's signature will be worth something. Yes, huh? So I don't know that. We're going to ask that in a minute, but I know a lot of the writers, I know a lot of the illustrators, and a lot of the authors have got work since they have left Writers of the Future. I know a lot of them are working on books. A lot of them have books out. It's a lot to keep up with because so far, from just that group alone, I have met 50 authors and 50 illustrators, and if you include the judges, that's another 20 on top of that. And that's not including the regular groups of friends I have that are authors. The network does a lot of authors, so from a lot of different areas, and a couple of different groups actually. A couple of publishing companies use some of our shows to run their people through. Not this one. This one's a little different. Carmen does some help on this one. I do some. Jeffrey does. And anyway, it's whoever's hosting gets to use whatever means they want to bring guests on the show, as long as it's an author. We're gonna do illustrators too, but eventually, the illustrators will have their own show. Well, it's when you bring on someone like Tom Woods or Echo Chernick on the Author's Quill, they're gonna be looking at me like, Joe, I draw, man, right? I don't write, I draw, man. But anyway, so Zack, how have you been, man? I mean, how's life been treating you?
Life's been treating me great. I think maybe you could draw with a quill. I would assume.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you have to dip the damn thing a lot, but I'm sure you could draw with a quill.
You would have to dip it a lot.
Yes, you would have to dip it a lot, and you have to have little multiple colored quill things. What do you mean, Chris? Wait, you really don't know what a quill is? I'm not going to be mean to you. No, I mean, some people might. If you're not into writing and stuff, you might. I mean, how old are you? Do you mind me asking? 45? No way, dude. How old? Where are you from? Like New Zealand? No, they know what a quill is down there too. Are you like from one of them tribes in South America or one of them island tribes we've never heard about? It's a quill. Well, you know what a feather is, right? You know what a feather is? Okay. You're halfway through the quill right there. In the old days, they actually used like a goose feather. They would hollow it out and use it to write with ink. But as they got more sophisticated, they still left the feather on there more for show than anything else. And they had more of a metal tip, usually a rounded ball tip. No, not a moving ball tip. No, it's nothing like that. You stuck it in a little inkwell, and then you stuck it in a little inkwell, And I guess eventually you know how far you could write with each dip. Yeah, because I'd be trying to stretch it out so you'd kind of be feeding as it went along. It's no, I like the title. It's a good title for this particular show, and because we only do authors on here for the most part, and we have some really good authors that have been on some famous authors. What book were you in again?
I was in. I think I got a copy right here. That would be
Put
smart.
that biatch up there. Yeah, that's right. Throw the thing up there what I can see.
I was in
36. Is that 36?
Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
36.
Okay.
I mean, I've been in a lot of other stuff, which I'm happy
Well,
to talk
yeah.
about. But
Oh yeah, we want you to tell them everywhere you've been, what you've been up to.
Yeah.
It's well, no, that's where I actually met Zach. He was over. He's one of the winners, and well, yeah, they give him money and they feed him. But no, they make him work. So they won't let me do like a video of the whole thing. They just won't let me. But because I understand why.
I'm happy to talk about it. I can give you some details.
So first off, y'all get there. I mean, what the hell was? I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to get into some of your newer stuff. But still, what was it when you were at the Roosevelt, right? Yeah, you was at the Roosevelt.
Yeah, Roosevelt.
So you didn't have to go to crappy Lowe's hotel anyway. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Shit, I didn't mean to say that out loud. Damn, I apologize, people. I really didn't mean to say that out loud. So anyway. The Roosevelt. So you arrived there, you're thinking, okay, I'm in Hollywood. I'm on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm hanging out. I mean, if you're local, it's different. But, if you're from somewhere else and now you're in Hollywood, you're at the Roosevelt, you walk in, you get to meet Joni. And, Joni's like the whirlwind from hell. No, people, I meant that in a good way. Joni is, I have no idea how Joni does her job.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
I have no idea. And, and that's the woman who's going to call you and say, guess what? You won. No, she also. Good.
She called me and told me like right before I was going to go. When I won, I was in my master's program for becoming a therapist, and I was about to walk in to see a client, and I decided to answer the phone, and she gives me this news that then I'm like, buzzing, like, oh my God, I won this big thing. Now I got to go listen to somebody tell me about how they are like suicide or I deal with that.
Hey, well, at least you had it in the back of your head. There was some bright light back there. Yeah. I got a few friends that are therapists. I have no idea how they do it. I have to deal with enough crazies as it is, and now I mean I get some, and they make good money doing it, but somehow, well, I'll tell you this: I do get a lot of phone calls. Hey, Joe, you want to go out drinking tonight? No, man, I don't drink. Come on, Joe, let's go out drinking. I'm like, what do you mean? I said, man, it's been a rough day. I just need to talk. and that's a nice thing because they can talk to me and they know I'm not going to say anything about what they said. I'm just going to be like, really? Oh my God. I'm glad I don't do that for a living. That's all you get out of me. Wait, so
I mean, I'll just say in terms of doing therapy for a living, like people always ask me, why would I want to do that? For exactly the reason you you just said. Why would you want your job to be listening to people, basically bitch about stuff and in their life? And the reality is, so I have undergraduates and I have master's students that I teach. And I'm always asking them, why do you want to be a therapist if they're trying to go to school to do that? Right. Mm-hmm. And they always say, I want to help people. And I say, every job is helping people, hypothetically. Flipping burgers is helping people eat burgers. Yes. Even a politician, hypothetically, is helping people.
Well, at least in his case, helping himself. But anyway.
That's right. And so I said, it's got to be more than that. And my answer to that question for myself personally is it's a challenge.
All right. What did I just click?
Sometimes people are, you went to audio only. Sometimes people are surprised to hear that, but it's like therapy can't all just be about me being really empathic or really wanting to help people. It's also got to do something for me. And what it does for me is it's a challenge, right? Like my parents are lawyers. They definitely get off on looking through documents and trying to, figure out the puzzle that is whatever legal thing they're working on. And for me, having somebody come into my office and say something like, I'm sad, can you help me? That's such a big abstract issue to try to tackle. It's really engaging. It's kind of chaotic.
No, I can see that.
That's fun.
Unfortunately, I've been cursed my whole life. Didn't matter what I did for a living. People just tell me everything about themselves. I'm not kidding you, man. I remember I get out the Navy. I'm going to school. I want to go get my bachelor's in science, and I'm messing around. And people just come in and they don't know me from me, but that's what it is. They don't know me from me. Just tell me their whole life, how their wife's cheating on, what their kids are doing. I'm like, really? And if they're regulars, man, I could tell you their whole life, start to finish. It got a little weird. It's still even today. just the other day, I stand and my son's laughing his ass off. I'm standing in line, and I said hi to this lady. She tells me like the last 5 years of her life. I'm like, it's some kind of weird curse. But I know too, a lot of my regular guests who talk to me on the phone a lot are like, "You're dangerous, Joe, because sometimes I'll be talking to you and I'll forget that we're live." He said it's just a bad thing. He's, by the way, he's a therapist. He's like, he said it's a bad thing. He said now we got video, it's a little easier to remember we're live.
Right.
He said, man, because he would every now and then he'd slip up and say something he wasn't supposed to. We have other guests that have done that over the years, but it's but you know what? I refer y'all guys a lot of business as doing abduction research. Well, let me just say, I refer y'all a lot of business, and because a lot of people come to me and say this has happened to them, that happened to them. Well, I'm not a therapist. I mean, I've got some basic crap I learned in the Navy, but I'm not nowhere near a therapist. So I always tell them the same thing: seek some. And there's a few people that we've learned over the years that were good to deal with these kind of people. But I always tell them the same thing: it's nothing I can do for you. It's nothing the organization can do for you. You have to seek a professional. And I always tell people the same thing: look, when you come looking for someone like me, beware, because once the truth is out, it's out. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. The genie's out, whatever it may be. Whether it's aliens, God, your husband, your daddy, whoever it is, it's out. It's not going back, and you're going to have to deal with it. Yeah. So I warn people all the time: think about that hard before you come to see one of us, or you go into hypnosis. I said, what do you mean hypnosis don't? Okay, John, I'm going to tell you a little secret about hypnosis. The smarter you are, the easier it is to put you under. Oh, yes, that's a fact. The smarter a person is. So if you're really hard to put on it, that means your IQ is probably sitting around 75 somewhere. Yeah, I used to teach this. Actually, my wife still teaches it. It's one of those things. Smart people out, because what happens is really smart people, especially people with really high IQs, especially people who are very detailed, they've tricked their own selves into being hypnotized. So they're trying to fight it, or they think they're trying to fight it, and they're talking before they realize it. They're already down on level 4 or level 5, and they're like. And then when they get up later, they're like, how the hell did you do that? I said, I didn't do that. You did that, actually. I was just guiding you along the way. No, hypnosis is we'll get back to this in another show, but hypnosis to me is a tool that should be used sparingly, only when really needed. And I'm so strict about it. I won't even do hypnosis. I have to, because I do voice stress analysis, body language, and facial recognition. So I won't even do hypnosis if the voice stress meter's not running next to it. I don't even want to do it. But it's well, you see things. That's all I can tell you. You find out stuff about people you never wanted to know about in the first place. But still, it's good for you guys. I'm telling you, it's good for you. We probably send y'all 100 or 200 a year, man.
Well, you want some interesting history?
Good.
I think you'll get a kick out of it. Your audience will get a kick out of it. So there's 5 different licenses nationally in terms of being a therapist, right? You've got you can become a psychologist with a PhD or what's called a PsyD. You can become a psychiatric nurse, and then there's the 3 master's level therapy licenses, which is social worker, professional counselor, and couple and family therapist. I'm a couple and family therapist, and what a lot of people don't understand is that the discipline is actually a different training than like going through to become a psychologist, and the discipline finds its roots, bizarrely, in a group of psychologists who are looking at the types of clients they were working with at the time and saying something's not right about the way that we're handling issues, clinically speaking. Maybe there's a better way. The thought process coming from they would work with a person, because psychology at the time was a lot about the individual sanctuary space. Yep. I go in just for me. It's just my space to explore myself, and there's a therapist to help me do that. But what they kept finding was they would help somebody and some of their symptoms would abate, but then the symptom would show up in someone else in the family. Or they would just send them back to the family and the symptoms would come back. And they said, there's got to be a better way to deal with this. So they started trying to think systemically. And what those therapists did, those psychologists, they went to the cybernetics conventions in the 40s. Cybernetics, a lot of people hear that word and they think robots, and it could be robots, but really cybernetics really means systems with feedback loops, right? So anything you can describe as a system with a homeostasis, meaning like a resting state, that has feedback loops in and out. And these conventions had like early robotics, early computers, other kinds of mechanical systems, biological systems that would have feedback loops, and then social systems that would have feedback loops. And these psychologists went there, and one of the people that they were most excited to talk to was that hypnotist. What's his name? Erickson, the original.
Yeah. What is it, Eric? God, you said it and it went right out of my head, man.
Yeah, Milton Erickson.
Yeah, sorry, because I actually, for some reason, I'm familiar with him, and
well, he's a very famous hypnotist, and at the time, he was considered a radical, not just because of the hypnotism stuff, but because he would do things like, if you went in there and said, "Hey, I'm having trouble with my mom," he would say, "Well, bring her in," which totally went against the sort of psychological thing at the time, the standard. And so from those cybernetics conventions, plus with the stuff that this hypnotist had been doing, couple and family therapy developed as a discipline out of that. There's more to the story, but it's interesting to think that it was cybernetics conventions, hypnotism, also schizophrenia research, because there was a period in time, especially back then in the 40s and 50s, where one of those leading theories as to where schizophrenia comes from was from problematic family dynamics, mainly something called double bind. You ever heard of a double bind before?
Wait, are you saying say the word again? Because I'm getting
double bind.
Okay, now I thought you said double blind at first.
No, yeah. So double blind would be like in a research study.
Yeah, in a research study. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but a double bind would be something like you go up to your mom, and your mom says to you, "You never bring me flowers when you come over." And then the next time you come over, you bring her flowers, and she says, "Well, it doesn't count because I had to ask you."
Mm-hmm.
And there was a theory for a while that kind of vice that you get, because you can't win, right? There's nothing you can do to make
there's nothing you can do.
Exactly. And there was a theory for a while that maybe that type of interaction played into what causes schizophrenia, which seems like a wild thing to say now, but that was what they believed. And so it was the intersection of all these things: cybernetic conventions, some of the developments coming out of hypnotism, schizophrenia research, all that came together to make family therapy. And actually concurrently, on a totally different track, couples counseling was already happening. And generally speaking, it would be somebody in your local community who was kind of respected, like a judge or a doctor or something like that, who would take on as a second vocation, talking to couples about their marriages to try to help them. And in 1942, I think, this woman named Emily Mudd was like, wait, these places have popped up all around the country. All these people doing this secondary vocation of couples counseling. We should probably come together as an association and be able to talk about it. So she did that. And then in 1973, that family therapy line coming out of cybernetics, and then the couples counseling line just sort of naturally developed, that Emily Mudd put together. They came together as couple and family therapy. And we share a lot with psychology, but it's actually kind of its own separate discipline. And a lot of people,
it kind of has to be. I mean, psychology is too I hate to say it this way, but it's too rigid and the individual, I guess is what I'm saying. It just, I know enough people have been in it that it just, well, it's just focused on the individual, really.
We have a concept called linear causality versus circular causality. And the idea here would be linear causality is more common in psychology, where someone might say, okay, linear A to B, right? Your wife is berating you all the time, and that's why you're depressed. Straight line, right? It's pretty simple. But circular causality, and you can see where this is going already. Circular causality would be like, well, hold on. Your wife is berating you about not spending enough time together because she feels like you're like too distant, right? She needs more from you, right? But then her berating and saying, hey, spend more time with me, triggers your feeling of inadequacy, maybe like, oh, I'm never going to be good enough for her. So you want to pull away. And what happens when you pull away and you ignore her? She just gets even more lonely. She comes after you more. And it's this idea of this infinite loop that goes around and around. And that as an idea is not particularly revolutionary, but it was at the time, to think of helping people by trying to break those negative circular dynamics, rather than just taking one person by themselves and saying, so why are you upset? Oh, because my wife's always yelling at me, right? Because then you can help that guy to deal with it. But when he goes back to his
You know what's sad for you guys is when I do studies and polls, they do still consider any psychology a pseudoscience.
Well,
And all these years, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not going to understand part really. I can in some areas I can understand it because it gets a little hairy, scary in some places. But in general, knowing as many people I know who do this for a living, I'm thinking why. First off, you can tell the individuals are educated. Anybody who's talking about this generally has a really good education behind them. Not just in what we're talking about, but in generally good education. And all of them have got at least 2 or 3 letters behind their names, no matter what. So, but I think that intimidates some people. So what they do is they just flip it and say, okay, well, we're just going to treat it like it's a pseudoscience. And I'm like, well, maybe 80 years ago, maybe when Freud was alive, we could call it a pseudoscience. But today, I feel like it's more in the real primary sciences, like everything else is. I mean, there's just too much base now. And like you're talking about with them being broke up like that, and when you're talking about families and anything to do with kids, it should always be treated differently. I mean, Jesus, the kids alone are enough factor on. What do you mean, Jack? I got lots of kids and grandkids. And I got great grandkids, man. Trust me.
Yeah, great grandkids. Wow.
Yeah, she wouldn't know about kids. I'll teach you all about them, man. Jesus, man. Well, no, because my wife is older than me, goofball. Yes, that's why. Anyway, we'll get into that on another show. It's that's too much to even talk about on this one show. It's so, but for you, so you're dealing with with mom and dad or husband and wife. So do you do just husband and wife, or do you do husband, wife, mom and dad, or either one?
Yeah. So I work with individuals, couples, and families. And maybe I should just say credential wise, since you were just mentioning it. So I have a master's in couple and family therapy, and the letters after my name, some of them are licensed clinical marriage and family therapist. Okay. I work with individuals, couples, and families, but I'm always coming from that systemic perspective. And even if I'm working with an individual, I might be like, it would be helpful for you to bring your dad in or whatever it is and have them come in. I would say I probably specialize in couples. I do a lot of couples therapy. And I'm also just wrapping up my certification as a sex therapist. So I do a lot of sex therapy work too, a lot of like desire discrepancy between two members in a relationship. I do a lot of like erectile dysfunction, vaginismus, which is vaginal pain during sex. But the thing is, I'm a guy, and so I do get a lot of men. So I get a lot of penis disorders, as one would expect.
Well, I can understand it.
Yeah.
What you mean? So it's funny. My primary doctor is a female, and she always asks me because I'm getting old now. She goes, "Do you need something like Viagra?" She says, "I know your heart's gonna look up." I said, "Doc, when I need it, trust me, I will ask you."
Don't worry.
She's like, I'm gonna be 60 soon. She said, "Will you?" I said, "Yeah, well." I said, "What do you think? I want to quit having sex?" I said, "No, Doc, I'm not that kind of guy." I said, "Trust me." Because they always worry because I'm on I forgot one of the blood pressure medicines I'm on.
Right, yeah.
She's like, and they're taking me off a lot of them. She's like, every time I lose weight, they take me off something. But she's like, that cost it when it costs a doc. I'll tell you when it costs. I said, I have no problem. I said, if you just want to write a script, go ahead. I said, but I'm fine right now. And she's are you sure? I said, I think I'm sure, Doc.
Well, it's good she asks because I mean,
she's a real good doctor.
With men in particular, there's a lot of reticence to discuss what's going on, and I'll tell you this
because they think it makes them less a man. That's why.
Yeah, and so here's a really interesting thing that I've kind of noticed in my work is that there's 3 main penile dysfunction issues, right? The first one and the most common one is erectile dysfunction, which is not able to get or maintain an erection. The second one is premature ejaculation, which probably everybody knows what that is, but it's when you ejaculate too soon during sex. And those ones, at least according to the research, are the most common type of disorder.
Yeah, it sounds like they would be.
Right. Now, the third one, though, is delayed ejaculation, right? So not being able to achieve orgasm during sex. And what's interesting is I feel like I get a ton of guys asking about that. And I think what it is that, at least in terms of research, I think men are more likely to go running immediately to a doctor if it's a erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation because it's preventing them from having sex.
Yeah.
But delayed ejaculation, you can get hard and you can have sex. It's just there's some kind of anxiety stopping you from achieving orgasm, right? And I feel like men are much less likely to report that as a problem.
Actually, I think you're right. Well, in some cases, some guys might actually think that's a good thing. So It's
right.
oh
They
man,
start to not.
well, you hear those rumors 15 minutes, so they're probably like, well, man, look, I'm going longer than 15 minutes. I'm thinking,
And usually people come in and then they start to express that it's that it is a real problem, because maybe their wife or whatever starts thinking like, are you not attracted to me? Is that why you're not having an orgasm when we're having sex? Or
that's true too.
He's trying to go for a really long time to really achieve that orgasm, and it's not happening. And now his wife's like, I'm raw, like I'm worn out.
I'm done. Yeah, that's enough, buddy.
That's enough. And so eventually people come with that issue. Well, I'll give you an interesting example. So usually this is an anxiety thing, right? That causes somebody to have this issue. Usually it's anxiety. And it can be a lot of different types of anxiety. The most interesting case that I've had lately was the issue was delayed ejaculation. And there were some body image issues and things like that where he wasn't necessarily feeling that, like, he wasn't feeling sexy, for lack of a better word, right? He told me that he didn't even, I said, how do you perceive yourself? Like, when you sort of fantasize about having sex, what role are you playing? And he was like, I don't even think of myself when I'm having sex. I just think of the woman. And I was like, okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. So he worked on that. But the main thing was he started to say he was nervous about becoming a father. Think about that psychologically.
Yeah, that's right? that can wear on you there.
He was nervous about becoming a father, and lo and behold, his ability to ejaculate had slowly kind of dipped off. The closer, the more serious.
He was protecting himself.
Exactly. The more serious the conversation with his wife became about having kids. So we worked through his sort of sense of confidence in becoming a father, and his confidence sexually started to come back. And then the thing that made the biggest difference, and this was very funny to me, the thing that made the biggest difference, and you have this experience as a therapist all the time where you're not really sure what will help, and then suddenly something does, and you're like, oh, okay, that was the key. The key with this guy was, we're talking about how he had sex with his wife the previous week, and he says, yeah, but then I had some trouble ejaculating because there weren't any tissues around. And I was like, do you ejaculate into tissues while you're having sex? And he's like, yeah, well, my wife's very persnickety about anything getting on the duvet cover. And I was like, okay. I said, hold on. I said, have you considered removing the cover from the bed? And he was like,
that's a good idea.
he was like, I don't know. Maybe we should try. And then I said, do you have like a sex towel, like something you can put down when you're having sex?
Buy a $50 quilt and throw it on it.
And he was like, no. He was like, I literally, the thought had never crossed his mind or his wife's mind. Comes back the next week for his session. Guess what he says?
Oh, good. I'm sorry. The phone rang right as you said that.
I said, he came back the next week, and what do you think he told me?
He took the cover off the bed.
He took the cover off the bed. He put down a towel, and he was just spraying everywhere. I said, okay, there we go. That's the solution that we were looking for, I guess.
It's what was that, Christopher? No, no, we're just, what the hell are you talking about? All right. What do you mean? You live in a whole different country. You can't be booking Zach. You're on the other side of the planet, man. Besides, you Europeans have weirder problems than Americans. So I'm just telling y'all outright. I'm just being honest with you. Americans are messed up. Don't get me wrong. Americans are messed up, but y'all got 2,000 years more messed up than we are. So I'm just helping y'all out. That's all. Actually, I find most of my friends in Europe to be way less uptight than most of my American friends, but. Because for Europeans, they look at sex differently than we do. It's like you knew that when when Bill was messing around with Monica, and all of Europe is going, and what's the problem with this? Because the French president at the time had a one on the side, so did the Italian president. So Europe's looking at us like, what is wrong with these Americans? What the hell's the problem over there? I'm thinking, well, it's one of the problems. Bruce says, Bruce wants to know what you got out on the market book-wise. Wait, that was John that called me? Hold on. I think that was John that called me. Go ahead and answer that. I'm going to see what
I have out on the market. Well, all right. So I got a couple things. I mean, first of all, this is actually not the first place I was published, but I do have Writers of the Future.
Yes.
Out, volume 36. But also I've been published in Asimov science fiction 5 or 6 times now. I just forget because I just sold another one to them. But so Asimov's, I've been in Asimov's a number of times. Right now, like literally right now on the market is this issue of Asimov's, the January, February 2024 issue. I've got a short story in there. And last year I was in Asimov's. Actually, funnily enough, I was in Asimov's in the May, June issue, I think, with a story called The Visions Are Free After Exit 73. And that story, speaking of Writers of the Future, was actually the story I had written during Writers of the Future. Because Joe sort of alluded to this, and you may know about this if you're familiar with the contest at all, but when you go there for a week, you have this week-long workshop. And during the workshop, you have a
hell week, man.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but the most hellish part was you do a 24-hour story. They basically 2 p.m. on Tuesday, they say, okay, go write a story. It's due tomorrow at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. And you're just kind of given the day to go and do that. Now, I'm an idiot, and I thought, wow, this is my only free time this whole week because there's so much stuff going on. So I went and got on the LA Metro, which I didn't even know existed, but I got on the LA Metro, which was quite a ride. And I went out to the beach to see the ocean. And I kind of was like, it was this whole thing. It took me like 9 hours to get out and back. And finally, I got back at like 11 p.m., 11:30, and the hotel was full of movie stars because there was a red carpet premiere of some Marvel movie across the street at the Man's Chinese Theater, or whatever it's called. Yeah. And so like Taika Waititi was like in the bar, and I was like, whoa, there's like famous people here. And I was further distracted. And at some point I started working on the story, and I ended up staying up most of the night, writing it, getting it done by 2 p.m., getting it turned in. And then it actually, I mean, I was very proud of it. And then it actually got bought by Asimov. So that's pretty cool. So that story is now, it was in Asimov's last year, which was quite cool. I've also been, last year I was also published in an Analog, which was very cool. So I've been in Asimov's like 5 times, but I was published in Analog last year with a story that actually had earlier that year it was a finalist for the Jim Bain Memorial Science Fiction Award, which is pretty cool. Something else I didn't know about until I was at Writers of the Future.
Learn all this shit though, man.
Yeah, all this stuff. And then the last thing I think is important to mention. So there's all those Asimov's books that I've been in. Like I said, there's 5 or 6 of them. Those are all the most recent ones. But also this past year, I'm also in the book for reasons I'll explain in a moment, but I edited this book. It's called Inner Workings. So basically, this is an anthology of 16 science fiction and some fantasy short stories, and then each story has a craft writing essay attached to it on the back end by the author, where the author takes one kind of element of writing craft that was important to the story and just kind of talks about it and talks about how they wrote the story and why the story is any good, generally speaking. Yes. And we have some interesting guest authors. We have Carrie English, who's sort of the head slusher at Writers of the Future. Wolf Moon is in here, who some of you may know. Martin Shoemaker, who I believe was on your show, Joe, at some point not too long ago. And Eric James Stone as well. And there's a bonus essay by Kevin J. Anderson, who was, of course, a judge at Writers of the Future and did some workshop stuff with us while we were there. But this is a good book to pick up if you're interested in Writers of the Future, because everyone in here is a Writers of the Future alumni, which is super cool. And it's half story and half craft writing. And we had a blast making this. So definitely encourage people to check that out.
Go check it out, guys.
Yeah, it was a Kickstarter. And then we also, we're going to do another Kickstarter soon for another anthology that's going to be all stories. It's going to be called Intergalactic Rejects. And it's going to be an open call. We have some really amazing guest authors lined up who I can't necessarily announce yet, but they're all top level, top brass,
fun people,
big names, very big names that you will have heard of. And then the other half of the stories will be open call, and the sort of hook for that one is stories that the authors think is really good that's been rejected several times, because rejection is a big part of writing. So
Well, I imagine it is. Carrie, no, if you don't know what Kickstarter is, we've talked about it many times on many shows. Of course, this sexy thing at the bottom of the screen here is John Goodwin. He just joined us.
Hey, Zach. Hey, Joe.
He
Hi,
works
John.
for some. He works for some company somewhere. What's the name of this company? Something Mars. What the hell's the name of this? Spaceships or us or some shit. It's Galaxy. Wait, I can't speak now. I'm lost my mind.
Galaxy Quest.
I had the Galaxy app. Well, because there's writersatfuture.com and galaxyquest.com. It's
right.
Just go and check them out. Check out both sites and hang out and see what you find. You missed the really good. Zach and I was embarrassing half the audience for about 30 minutes. I wish I could see like the faces of the people who were listening. Shit would have been great. Jimmy, what do you want? What? Just I don't know. Send it to here. Send it to us so we can see it. Yeah. Pop over to. It's too long to read. Send it. Go to one of our Facebook pages and drop it in that way, or one of the YouTube pages, and I'll drop it over to us. Dude, it's like a book. Come on. You might as well enter it into Writers of the Future. The damn thing's so long. I mean, really, I'm still scrolling. There's no end to this. What the hell? He's commenting on what you and I were talking about. He's just like going. He's got this big long list. It starts where we started at the show, and he's anyway. If you want us to talk about, you need to post that where we can all see it because it's too much to read. John, what are you up to, man?
I heard that Zach was here, and I said I got to get on this one here. So I barged in on this interview here so I could say hello.
You know, you're always welcome. So it's let me get that off. That got a dot on your head. It's driving me crazy.
What's on my head?
No, on my screen there was a dot like right smack in the middle of your head. You look like an Indian or something. It was making me nuts, man. I had to get it off of there. No, we were just talking about some of Zach, you know, what he does for a living and stuff like that. It's always really good when you are speaking to an author who you know has a primary job. It's always good to hear what they do for a living. It's like my good friend who's an author and he's a Bigfoot hunter, and that's what he does for a living. And I'm like, dude, how much can you possibly make as a Bigfoot hunter, right? Last year, $333,000. I was like, I said, for doing what? He said, well, I take people out and show them where that damn Bigfoot is, Joe. I'm like, dude, really? No, I'm telling you, Joe, I'll put them in a boat. He puts them in the fan boat and takes them out. And I'm saying, do they see Bigfoot? He says, sometimes they see Bigfoot. I'm like, do what the hell ever, man. He's been doing this for like 10 years. I'm like, oh, man. I said, I'm in the wrong line of work. I said, I'm become Bigfoot hunter too, man. Jesus. I mean, I don't know. That shit is just too funny to me. It's got a beautiful fan boat, by the way, though. Runs right over the top to the gators. He don't even care. There's a gator out there. He just rolls right over the top of it. The gator don't move, so be it. Oh, man. So, Zach, what you got planned now? I mean, you kind of, I know, I hear your career's going pretty good. You sound like you're really comfortable, which is nice. So do you have any free enough time to write? Well, this is a two-part question. First off, because I know what you do for a living. Do you have enough free time to write? And have you considered writing about your profession?
Yeah, this is a good question. I definitely have enough free time to write. See, now, I've totally left out the fact that I'm a musician also.
Oh, shit. She's like me. You just got, see, you got too many things going on, man.
I'm just adding that in here to say that a lot of people will say to me, how do you have time to have a career and the writing and the music?
Yeah, that's 24 hours
before I came on today, I was in the studio doing some demo stuff for a upcoming album that one of my band Pretty Bitter is working on. Award-winning band Pretty Bitter. You can look us up on any streaming service if you feel so inclined. Hear some rock music.
There you go.
But people always ask me, like, how do you have time to do all this stuff? And I say, my version of relaxing is creating, right? Like when I sit in front of the TV.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. When I sit in front of the TV and just like, just watch something and my brain's oozing out of my ears, I get bored of that pretty quickly. Yeah, maybe that's ADHD or something, but slowly, but very, very quickly, I get tired of that and I need to go on and be doing something. And so, there's plenty of time. In fact, I'm working on a submission for that Bane contest. I want to get in the top 3 this year, so we'll see what happens. I didn't mention earlier, I'm in a PhD program right now. I'm in the dissertation phase of the PhD, which means the book I'm supposed to be writing is the dissertation that I'm supposed to be doing. Supposed to be being the operative phrase. And so I would say I'm not going to be able to write like a novel length thing before I'm done with the dissertation, but I still have plenty of time to write short stories. And I will say another thing about the workshop, Writers of the Future workshop, probably the biggest takeaway I had from that experience. I had mentioned the 24-hour story a little bit ago, and when I was writing the story, as I told you, I didn't really start till 11:30 at night, but after I got back from the beach. But when I started writing the story, by the next day, I was very surprised to find that, many of the, those stinger endings at the end of a section or a chapter, right? Or those really great lines or those interesting ideas that I thought took me 2 or 3 weeks to kind of percolate on and come up with, when I was put under the pressure of needing to do it within 24 hours and really within like 15 hours, when I was put under that pressure to do that, it just came out. And it comes to this thing of, there's this joke that we were talking about while we were there about, an MFA, so a Master of Fine Arts, their approach to writing might be like you're sculpting the David. So all of your energy is going into just perfectly crafting every sentence and every angle of the story. And you're spending weeks and weeks on one product. Whereas the pulp mindset, which is more of where Elrond's coming from, and all the other sort of pulp, the Heinlein and all those guys from back in the day, is just write a lot, and as you keep writing and moving on to the next story, you're sharpening the blade, which is yourself. Mm-hmm. You as the tool is getting sharper. And I feel like once I took that on as an idea after having learned that at the workshop, I've been just sort of pump out stories all the time. And not every one is the most amazing story ever, but I'm selling a lot of them. And I'm selling more than I was before. And I think it's because I'm getting better at writing, because I'm writing more rather than the stories are getting better, because
you're probably not second guessing yourself so much either.
Yeah, exactly. Not second guessing myself. Another big thing that I learned, not from the conference, the workshop, but from actually getting published at Asimov's, is like, if the editor gives you a note, just roll with it. Right? Like I got a note from Sheila Williams, who's the editor of Asimov's. I think the first story I wrote for them, she came back to me and she was like, I really like 3/4 of this, but I hate the ending. Can you change it? And so I went back to my story and I went about 3/4 in, where I'm pretty sure she meant 3/4 because there was a break there. And I just deleted everything after it. And I started writing again as kind of a brand new ending. And then she bought it. Right. So it's kind of going off what you said, Joe. It's that kind of fearlessness and just moving, never stopping moving forward, not second guessing, writing as much as you can.
And it's funny because, you talk about writers, illustrators, even hosts, actors. It's the same thing. You're either going to step up or you're going to get stepped on, when it's what it comes down to. Right. And it's not like the old days when there's only a handful of everybody around doing anything. Now there's 8 billion of us on the planet competing for a lot of the same space. So, I tell people, I get a host. Matter of fact, I met a lady 3 days ago. I was fixing her roof, is what my company was doing, and the woman can out talk me. And I was like, Jesus. I mean, she's got a PhD. She's intelligent. We've added 3-4 PhDs to the network and a couple more bachelors. And she's into a lot of different stuff. And it's like, well, you'd make a great host. So I invited her on Friday before last. She couldn't figure out how to get on. I said, that's what the problem is with brilliant people. She's like, what? I said, y'all are dumbasses. She's like, what do you mean? I said, some of the most brilliant people I know, dude, couldn't even damn air their tire up. She's like, you're kidding. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I don't know what it is. It's like a trade-off. Your brain is so focused on, God, I got a master's and PhDs out the yin yang, but I can't pump my own gas. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. And I don't know. I don't pretend to even understand that. I'm not a psychologist, so it's just, like my stepfather, his IQ was about 184, and he was brilliant, and he one of them guys fall asleep with face down in his eggs. I'm like, come on. I said, where's the rest of your IQ? Is it? It's just like what happens is, and I hate to say it this way, what happens is it just seems like a lot of them don't quite understand common sense. I think the brain is working too fast to slow down to the regular normal people and say, hey, what are y'all doing? No, we're moving on. It's because I was talking to Joe Keiko about the same subject, and he was laughing. He said, I get told by some of my close friends sometimes that, you know, I'm a dumbass. You say, I can't be a dumbass. I got like 5 PhDs. He's like, I was like, I understand what you're saying, dude. I said, really smart people sometimes have an issue. I said, I was really lucky. I got a real high IQ, but the way I was raised, I was raised in the middle of shit. And so I didn't have any choice but to learn how to do so. It also kind of takes away from you, though, because I noticed when I was learning in the Navy, when I was getting my advanced degrees in the Navy, I noticed that if I messed with my friends too much, I lost too much of the focus. It slowed me down on how fast I wanted to get through my courses, basically. That's what it was. And in the Navy, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you have to ace every test. There is no missing one question. You miss one question, you failed. You fail 3 times, they kick you out. So I'm just telling you, they don't play around. If they want to make sure, well, I can understand it. They're putting you out on in my case, I was going down on $100 billion aircraft carrier. You know, I'm pretty sure they wanted to know what I was doing. It's but you know, I had fun when I got it. I got my bachelor's, which was fun, and I thought about going further. But when I read the courses, for me, I just wasn't going to learn anything new. I was going to learn how to do things differently, but I wasn't going to really learn any new science. And I was kind of like, well, no, that's just not going. I'll get bored. Is what'll happen. I can't. John knows how I am. I can't sit still for 5 minutes. John's got to bribe me with food to get me to sit down. Joe, let's go have breakfast. He knows I'll sit down and eat. That's why. he knows how it works. What is that, Chris? You know, that's John Goodwin. He's the president of Galaxy Quest. Yes. He's the big boss. I know I always pick on him about his wife, Emily, but he's the boss. Yes. No, Emily's she's a boss too, but he's the boss. Yes. And you've heard me. Yeah. And I know y'all have heard me talk about her a lot, Christopher. If you win, you'll get to meet Joni in person. Mm-hmm. And she's the whirlwind. Oh, yes. I've been calling that since the day I met her, man. She's got more patience. I'm telling you what, if I had to deal with all these people, I'd be like, bleep, bleep. What did you say? Bleep, go to your room. Bleep, bleep. Leave me alone. Bleep, I'm busy. Bleep. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Well, no, it's you know, when I'm sitting there, because I do this from a different view. So, you know, these guys are winners. These guys are presenters. I'm totally from a whole different perspective. So I'm watching. By the way, John, yesterday I started out. So I posted some of was not last year, the year before, is 24-hour story. I started putting it on the site. And then I went around. I realized I had a lot of pictures of certain individuals. So I'm making little files for each one of you. Not little files, just little like clusters. I'm sure some of y'all are going to want me to take some. Not you, all yours look good. Some of the girls are going to want me to take some down. I already know what's going to happen here. And I realized I still have the very first picture I took of your wife when she came in on that Tuesday night or was it Wednesday night from working on the gala. She's definitely going to make me take that one down. She's going to be like, Joe, I will hurt you, buddy. I will use your own sword on you, buddy. You better chill out. What's that, Donnie? No, what do you mean? Zach's like 50. He just looks good. That's all.
No, you can guess. I'm 32.
Oh, he's a puppy, man. He's a baby. I got boots older than him. Look, yeah, I do. I got boots older than him. No, actually, Chris, my son's actually older than Zach. He's 30. He'll be 38 this month, by the way. Yes, don't remind me. It's a bitch when your son's 38 years old. You're like, God, it's hard to be 48 when your son's 38. So I got to say, that's all I can say about this. It's some kind of extraterrestrial BS. Stephanie wants to know. Well, no, I've actually asked him this question before, but since it's a separate show, I asked him anyway. Stephanie wants to know, what is your favorite genre to write in, and who is your favorite author? See, the favorite art thing is hard, y'all. When I ask that question like favorite movie, I'm always like, really? I can think of like a dozen authors and 15, 20 movies. I can't answer that question straight out. But anyway, what do you think, Zach? Who is your favorite author? I would say me, but still, that's cheating.
Well, I mean, I could say favorite genre to write in is definitely science fiction, for sure, without a doubt. I like writing horror sometimes also, and every once in a while I might write something that's more like a fantasy, but mostly science fiction. The reason I like science fiction is because I like the idea that I could write something and one day it'll just be so wrong that people we'll read it for laughs. Like it was dramatic.
What the hell?
When I wrote it the first time. What the hell was this guy thinking? This is so far from what reality.
I've read a few like that over the years.
Yeah, so have I. No, but I like the idea in science fiction of being able to take. It's really science fiction or fantasy, but I just like it better in science fiction. But being able to take a concept that in contemporary fiction, I guess you call it, so just sort of straightforward literary fiction, you might have characters pondering ideas like what happens after I die. But in science fiction and fantasy, you can just go there and do it. It just feels like a much more direct way to comment. Or
I like science fiction, so you're not going to get any complaints out of me.
But in terms of favorite author, I mean, I don't have a favorite author. That's impossible to answer. I have favorite.
I say that all the time. John said it himself. It's a hard question to answer.
I really, really like a lot of the authors that I see on like Clark's World on a regular basis. If you're familiar with that, it's a magazine. You can read it online. And they have podcasts as well. I like a lot of the authors I read in Asimov's, but I like, rather than say author, I think what I could tell you is I tend to like contemporary science fiction, short fiction.
So how about what is it, John? Near now science fiction. Is that how am I say it right? Anyway,
the near future.
Near future science fiction. Sorry, because I some of this stuff I like Expanse and Babylon and a few others. I kind of like. There's a line in Expanse. I'm gonna always remember that. He's not that guy, but I'm that guy. I'm always gonna remember that shit. That was epic, man. He walks in and makes the guy leave. He said, "But I'm that guy," and blows his brains out. Guys, that's on Expanse. It's season 4 or something like that. Maybe season 5. I don't know. But I like stuff like that. But man, there's not much sci-fi I don't like. Yeah. And I can even go back to some stupid ones like Ice Pirates and just dumb shit and that probably shouldn't even be allowed to be on TV anymore. I'm really truly. Well, I was watching Forbidden Planet the other night with Leslie Nielsen in it. And I was thinking,
classic.
And I enjoy it. I mean, I mean, the technology as far as what we're concerned is way out of date, but it holds up okay, and the acting is okay. It's just. And I like the idea about the Iliad and the id. That's always been a thing. I've always kind of the id people. Y'all don't know what the id is. Well, I'm not going to even let y'all come to this show anymore. I'm going to start. I'm going to start having an IQ test to attend this show if y'all don't watch it with these dumbass questions today. Oh my God! No, really. I mean, look it up. How's that? Look it up. No, yeah, look it up. I like. There's a lot of different kind of sci-fi I like, and fantasy. Some fantasy, I don't know. For some reason, I prefer sci-fi over fantasy, but I do like sci-fi fantasy. So I guess I can't say anything about that. But most fantasy, and maybe when I was younger, I kind of liked the dragon stuff and things like that. But I also like just straight out hardcore stuff too. So yeah, it's I can get into some just heavy kind of stuff that most people won't watch. What's your favorite sci-fi, John? That don't count. Oh man. Wait, now scroll by. Reprint it. Yeah, reprint it. No, just print it. Yes, no. I know it was a cartoon. Yes, I know. It was a cartoon filled with rock and roll music and half naked cartoon girls.
Which one is it?
It's oh, come on, put it back up. You're gonna make me go look it up, aren't you? Why won't it scroll back and let me see it? Let me see if I can go scroll back. Anyway, it's I'm going brain dead. That's what I'm going is brain dead. And where'd this comment go? Well, guys, I just had it like 2 seconds in front of me. Where'd it just go? What did I do with it? What the hell? Maybe I just type it in and they'll do it that way.
So while he's looking for that, Zach, are you going to Superstars?
I'm not going to Superstars, actually. No. But
have you been there? You've been there before, right?
I've not been to Superstars, actually. No. It's always at an awkward time when in terms of like the school year.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's just an awkward time. But Storm Humbert, another alum of writers, I think Storm and also John Campbell from my year are both going to be there again this year. They're going to be handing out bookmarks for our next Kickstarter.
I had Storm. I interviewed Storm last year at Superstars for this Kickstarter to launch, to roll this out, the podcast, just as soon as
I remember
the Kickstarter was announced.
Yeah.
So hopefully it helped.
Oh, it definitely helped. Yeah. I don't know. Our first Kickstarter ended at 268% funded.
That's way cool.
That's pretty cool. And now this time, we're doing a little bit of a bigger Kickstarter for Intergalactic Rejects. And by the way, if I didn't mention, it's the Inner Workings was our previous Kickstarter, and the group that we put together of all Writers of the Future alumni is called Calendar of Fools. We're kind of working towards being a small press, little bit.
So you're saying, which is exciting.
Yeah, we have an LLC and everything. It's all very official. But so I edited this first Inner Workings thing. We might do this concept again in another format, but the next thing we're doing is the Kickstarter for Intergalactic Rejects. We're going to be asking for a little bit more money this time, but that's so that we can try to pay people pro rates, because we ended up at 7 cents for this one instead of 8 cents, which is kind of annoying. And 8 cents. 8 cents per word is the pro rate.
Yeah,
but we have bigger names this time, and we also are going to have an open call, and usually both of those things are going to help.
Absolutely. Now, that's interesting. You've got that, because that's what Kevin did when he created Wordfire, and with Dean Wesley Smith with Chris, they created their own publishing house because they couldn't work with other publishers, so they just created their own publishing house to handle their works. So for you guys doing this, it guarantees that you got a press, and as you build up that base, and you've got an amazing, initial with all your alumni there.
Yeah.
You guys all have your careers that you're building. It's going to result in a good base, and what your audience versus, Storms versus, all the other guys there you'll cross flow to each other, and you'll end up with a lot bigger audience for each of your works. Absolutely. Which would be great. And then you'll have a solution, not wait for some other publisher or some other, because you guys control the vertical and the horizontal.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big part of our discussion in doing it. I kept saying ad nauseum, rising tide lifts all boats. I kept saying it over and over again, because that's what it felt like. And as a result of all of this, I really feel as though we're the 36-37 double year. Despite it, basically our Writers of the Future year got delayed for a while because of COVID, because it was supposed to be 2020 for volume 36. And so obviously it got pushed back a lot. And then we ended up sharing our year with a lot of the people in 37. But also, I don't know if I think it's just random. It just happens to be this way. But I mean, everything you could possibly want to get out of Writers of the Future, I think our cohort got, right? I mean, we got the whole usual amazing experience, but also that we made this big friend group that then also turned into now this small press that we've been working on, and we're now working on our second book. Like, that's,
No, you've raised the bar. That's really it. But it's interesting too, because I've interviewed people on the podcast, and going back to volume 3, they're still in touch with each other. That's almost 4 decades. They're still talking to each other. And that was Joe's first year attending the Rise of the Future. Was your year. That was the first time we invited him as a guest.
What the hell? I guess when he left, it disappeared. It's it's rock and roll. The girls, bright flowing hair, big boobs hanging out all over the place. They play rock music the whole damn time.
Are you talking about heavy metal?
That's what it was, heavy metal.
Okay.
God, I was
that magazine still exists, by the way.
Yeah, so there's one heavy metal, and then was a heavy metal 2000 or something. And
there was a heavy metal 2000. There was also all those Frank Bakshi, that guy, another cartoonist. He made Fire and Ice, I think it was, which is a fantasy cartoon from the 80s. Very
Fire and Ice also was a book that was done to Frank Frazetta too, of his art. There was a whole thing on that, Fire and Ice, and a short video or short movie, documentary of his stuff too, called Fire and Ice.
I don't know if they're connected, but I wouldn't be surprised. Certainly, if the Bakshi movie is very much inspired by the Frazetta type of art. I mean, it's like Conan the Barbarian kind of stuff, but the movie's from like 1986 or something. If you haven't seen it, it's actually pretty cool. It's got a lot of like rotoscoping art, animation in it as well.
Yeah,
very cool.
That's good.
Yeah. Guys, like, heavy metal was just heavy metal. It should be on its own. It's not whatever y'all saying over there. It's just It's not the same thing. It was, you know what it was really for was pothead music is what it was. Well, not the music, but the film, the movie itself. Yes,
The movie itself was definitely a pothead movie.
It was a stoner movie. Maybe take some acid or something. I don't know. There's a lot of flashing colors in it and stuff. I don't know, people. It's sci-fi, but I don't know. You saying it's all great and fabulous and fantastic. I mean, it was fun to watch, but it wasn't much more than that. I'm not a huge. I mean, a huge fan of heavy metal. Heavy metal music. Yeah, I'm a big fan of heavy metal music. I'm not gonna lie, but there's not much music in all fair. You got to remember, I've got a lot of kids and grandkids, so it's not much music I don't like. I listen. If you ever listen to the shows, you'll hear me play country. You hear me play rock. Like, the other night I was playing Sandman from Metallica. I was playing Johnny Cash. This is America. I'm America. Something. Just sometimes we'll play some hardcore stuff like that, and then sometimes we'll just play whatever. We had some bubblegum on a couple of weeks before that. Just all cover tunes. But I just got a big repertoire of music that I like. Movies. I'm kind of with Zach. My problem with movies and TV is I got to stop to watch. So my wife gets mad at me about this because I like to just put on something I've seen 100 times late at night, so I'll go to sleep. Because if it's anything interesting, I'm going to watch it, and then I'm going to stay awake. So I use it to slow down. But as far as just watching TV or even going for the movies, it's just I can't sit still that long, guys. Nah. As it is, I'll have either a laptop or a pad on my lap. If I'm in the living room talking with friends or watching TV, I'll still have usually my laptop. Well, I got my new Apple Pad back, so it's usually on my lap now. But it's just my brain has to be doing more than one thing. Yes. I don't. When I cross over to the other side, when they say, "Did you waste your time?" I said, "What do you mean, man? I didn't have no free time. With no time wasted. What the hell are you talking about?" I said I could have used a little extra time, maybe 36-hour day instead of 24.
Cool.
So Zach, Jim, I'm curious. How do you come up with story ideas?
That's a good question. Usually, it depends. They could come from anywhere. Honestly, I don't have like a model that I use for it, but
right.
It's either I had a dream or I saw something that was like visually interesting and I decided to start like writing it out in words and just kind of build a story from there. Or sometimes like the one that's in Asimov's right now. So it's in my current story is called Early Adopter in this issue of Asimov's. And what happened with that one was, I don't know if I was listening to a podcast or something where they were talking about Neuralink, which is the new
Elon Musk's little baby,
Elon Musk thing. And so this is supposed to be a technology where the original conception of it is, what if we could put some kind of neural interface inside of a quadriplegic person's brain so that they could use their brain power to control machinery and surf the web and whatever without help. And then, of course, because he's Elon Musk, he says, and then who knows what could happen in the future with this technology? What amazing things we'll be able to do.
Elon's the evil bastard, I'm telling you, but I still love him. Go
ahead. And so then my immediate thought, I mean, because what I say is like usually is, everyone's going to have a different reaction to that information. A sociologist versus a oil rig worker versus me as a sex therapist is going to have a different reaction to that. And of course, my initial thought was like, I wonder how people will use neural implants for sex.
that could be interesting. Now there could be some. Well, I don't know. We might have to change the radio in this show for this.
That was your story idea.
That was Well, because I was thinking like, because you want to do something new and interesting, right? The science fiction MacGuffin in your story should be interesting as well as writing a good story that's like an adventure or whatever type of story you're writing. And my immediate thought was, every single piece of technology that gets invented, someone finds a way to have sex with it or use it for sex. Like it's just a thing that people do, right? And I thought if we have neural interfaces that let us surf the web and maybe send emails, like we could be having this whole radio show like telepathically, I guess, if we both have things. I thought immediately, how will this be used for sex? And how is that going to fuck up people's lives?
Bluetooth changed sex in a major way. So I can only imagine what this is going to do.
Right, exactly. And so then for the story, that was it. I was like, okay, that's an interesting concept. And then I just have to pick like what do I think is going to happen? What kind of tone am I going for? And then I'm more of a what you call a pantser. So some people may know this, some people may not, but when it comes to writing, there's this sort of spectrum, and on one far end you have plotters, and on one far end you have pantsers. And some good, like a far end plotter would be Orson Scott Card. My understanding is that Orson Scott Card spent 2 or 3 years writing the outline for Ender's Game, and then 2 or 3 months actually writing the book, something like that, where, you know, the outline was very, very detailed, and then the actual writing of the book was kind of a snappy thing he did at the end, right? And then at the far other end, you have pantsers. I mean, the most famous version is Stephen King, who I think you can tell if you read his books that he's pantsing them. And pantsing means you kind of go in without an outline, and you're basically improvising your way through the story from one moment to the next. Martin Shoemaker, who you had on your show previously, Joe, he's like a master pantser. He does a thing at conferences called the Instant Short Story Show or the Instant Book Show or something like that, where he basically gets up in front of the audience and he dictates the story out loud. And then at FireCon this past year, and I think the year before, maybe the year before that, he did the Instant Book Show, where over the course of 3 days, they basically wrote like a novelette or a novella or something. And then at the end, he showed everybody how to publish a new story you've written on Amazon. So over a weekend, basically, he wrote the whole thing. I think Dean Wesley Smith, right?
Yeah.
I think he does that too. He's a pantser. So there's this gradient, right? It's not you're one or the other. You can kind of be somewhere in the middle. I'm more of a pantser, so I'll have that idea of, you know, how is Neuralink going to mess up how we have sex? Well, okay, I should say, how will it be interesting and weird and bad, and also maybe good? You know, it could be all those things.
I can see lots of ways it's going to be good.
It could be all those things. So I'm immediately curious about that, and then I just sit down and start writing. I don't outline very much. I might like have the idea and then kind of mull it over in my mind for a few days, maybe take a note if it's really interesting and I don't want to forget it, but I'm not writing an outline. I just sit down and do it. When it's done, I go and edit.
Yeah, because the main thing, like with several of our judges too, but like you mentioned, Dean Wesley Smith, I mean, he writes about 100,000 words a month. He's got a magazine that he publishes with about 90,000 words. He writes everything. That's all his work. Plus, he's got his novels that he does. And he's now almost 75, and he's going for 75 books with his byline on it.
He looks good for 75, by the way.
Yeah, no, he's definitely cranking it out there. But like Jerry Purnell, you know, I mean, he mentioned, because he was one of our judges, he passed 5 years ago or so after coming back from Dragon Con and got the con crud. But he said, like, you know, you got to be willing to throw away your first 500,000 to 1,000 words and to build your voice. But now you've got Dean. He writes first draft and just is able to submit. L. Ron Hubbard was able to write first draft because he was writing 100,000 words a month for, you know, year after year and doing his stuff. When he wrote Battlefield Earth, 425,000 words, that was 8 months he wrote that. And Mission Earth, 1.2 million words, is also in 8 months. So it's just once you get that good, you're getting better and better.
Go. How many words? 1.2 million. Is that what you said?
Yeah, in 8 months.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, go back. I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yeah, you did. Incredible. And so as you write more, you're able to then, you can go to that pantser side because you can conceive that, okay, here's the story, here's the setting, okay, here's the plot structure, this is where I want to go, and this is how I want to end it. Okay, let the games begin. You just write. And Van Vogt used to tell this story. E. Van Vogt, who was also one of the grandmasters of science fiction, he's the one that wrote Slan, said he watched Hubbard once write, and he just put the paper in his typewriter, and he looked towards the wall, not at the wall, but towards the wall, and just started typing. And he watched the story, and he'd type it as the story unfold. Yeah. And he said he watched him do that, and he was just amazed how he was able to do that. But you find these masters who were able to do that type of writing, you know. So like you say, you're able to pants like that. That's the whole thing of that, is you get the idea, and you're telling your story, and you're able to translate that from your mind to the typewriter keys, and provided you know how to type, you're good.
I think of it as, I mean, I call it pantsing, but I really lean on the improvising side. I don't even necessarily know the ending of a story when I start writing it. I'm okay just getting into it. And the thing that was definitely a learning curve, but I gotten a lot better at it, is to start pantsing and to be actually writing the story on the first page and not just hanging out somewhere for like 5 pages before a story starts. That's a thing to get over. But once you can sort of get right into the story and pants, you don't even need to know the ending. And I generally don't. I'm glad I live in the age where it's, having a word processor on your computer is common, because my process specifically is to kind of sit down, start writing, play around, do a lot of improvising as I go through the story. And once I reach the end and the ending has shown itself to me and I know where the story is going, I go back and I edit in all of the, the foreshadowing that I need. If I didn't have it before, I'll put that back in and kind of shape it, because it's always easier to edit than to originate something. So I kind of do that as the process. But speaking of improvising, I really recommend this book to everybody. It's called Free Play, Improvisation in Life and Art by Stephen Nachmanovich. And he's like a jazz violinist or something, that's a niche market for that, I guess. But he's a jazz violinist.
I think that's a niche market for sure.
And I mean, I love some Jean-Luc Ponty, but I don't know of very many other jazz. But anyways, but the book's really interesting, and I use it actually in therapy a lot too, because his perspective in the book is, when people say improv, they usually are thinking of either improv comedy, so people making stuff up live on stage, or they're thinking of improv music, where you're sort of improvising your notes and your next thing. But his point in the book, and I don't know, I don't find this refutable, is that actually in your life all the time you're improvising. Every moment is an improvisation. This discussion we're having right now, I mean, I'm improvising this entire sort of radio podcast. All of you are. We're all improvising it all the time. And so
Joe's got his cue cards.
Yeah, Joe's got cue cards.
That's right. I got my damn cue cards. I don't know what y'all talking about. Look, they somewhere around here. They're right here. I got them right there.
But the idea would be that you can, if you accept that, then you can use all the tools of improvising in your daily life as you go through your daily life. But also, obviously, you can use it in writing a story. And I already know a lot about musical improv because I'm a musician. I love a lot of types of music that have improv, jazz, and people don't tend to know this, but I'm a big bluegrass guy. I love bluegrass.
I love bluegrass.
So you kind of, I was able to take the sort of kind of fearless, don't care too much what you're going to write attitude that comes with playing music. Like when you get up to improvise with a band and you're just jamming and you're playing around, half the fun is just trying something. You don't really know where it's going to go or what's going to happen. And you don't lose anything if it sucks. It's just, okay, you learn something. Don't do that next time, right? You could do the same thing in writing. Is just sit down and start going, and you can go back and edit something later if you need to, but then you actually have a product rather than sitting there with the blank screen. So
that makes sense. Yeah. It was interesting because I just finished, I have the podcast that I do, the Writers of Future podcast, and I end up reading about a book a week to keep up with all my interviews. And so I just finished about an hour ago, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. He's an author up in Canada. And he's got this series. It started off as a short story idea, Canadian Werewolf. And it went from a short story to novella, then it became a novel. And then the fans said, what else you got? We need more of that. We want more of this guy, Michael. And so then he wrote the next book. And it was the next book. And then it became a series. He had no idea it was going to go like that. It just went. And then when I just finished right now was book 6. And this one here, he's got his girlfriend, and then it's set up. It's 2 first-person stories it's written in. And then it's now spinning off that line going off, and then a 3-part series following that. It's amazing how it's growing just from this spark of an idea. Never a plan for doing that, but now that's what happened.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I understand for some people they need the outline, and there's many amazing books that are written off of outlines. Sure. But even the outline, I mean, when someone says they're an outliner, what they really mean is, I like my improvising to be in a very specific box.
There you go. There you go.
They're still improvising. It's just when I improvise, I want to, basically it's like saying the context in which I feel the most safe playing and improvising is one in which I'm not wasting time writing a lot of sentences and paragraphs. I'm just putting it down on a note. And that makes total sense to me. It's just not how I want to operate. But because I think I get the most out of actually typing out the dialogue and seeing how the characters feel to actually write them.
Right.
But I think some people can get that from their outline, and that's totally fine for them. But the core of the idea with improv is the same. It's just allow yourself to play, just play around, have fun. If you're not having fun with the story, the audience is definitely not having fun with the story.
Then that's
for sure.
That's a big part of it. So
for sure. But it also might seem too like with short stories, by the very nature of a short story, you can't have multiple storylines. You don't have enough real estate to deal with it. Yeah. So it's probably easier to do that, like what you're saying there, or like the Panther. But in order to have a novel, especially in today's very complex, at least some readers like the complex, like the Brandon Sanderson stories, where you've got all these layers, they need to be intricately woven to make it so that it comes across seamless, but then they come together and you've got like 10 storylines running and something. And I personally have problems with those because I've got a week to get through a book, so I've got to be able so I can handle 400 or 500 pages, but boy, when they get to these behemoths, I just can't do that. And sometimes I'm going 2 or 3 books to prepare, like right now in the middle of 3 books, because I've got 5 interviews set up for the upcoming superstars in a few weeks. And I'm like jamming to get through them all so I can work out my questions, have all the interviews prepared, and then we can just get through them without going like, okay, so what was your book again?
I hope everyone's listening. John is the hardest working man in show business.
He is that, man. That bitch never stops. He is nonstop going the whole time I see him.
I mean, I will admit, by the way, I have an outline for the book that I want to write. So to John's point, that with a book you might want to have an outline because you need more of the plot lines coming together. Yeah, for sure. But I'm also very open to, once I start writing that book, to kind of allow it to go.
Oh, for sure.
Gonna go. And also I'm planning the book I'm writing. The book I'm writing instead of my dissertation is
my dissertation.
Yeah, I keep bringing it back because I need to remind myself that I need to do it. But the book that I'm working on is sort of a trying to remember what my elevator pitch was. I have it written down. It's pretty good, but it's I haven't had to say it in a while because the book doesn't exist. But the elevator pitch for the book is basically something about how there's been a break in reality in Seattle. Not that matters, but sort of a break in reality, and things can, if enough people believe in something, it can become true in this area, right? And so one half of the story is this dog that can talk now because someone believed that could be the case and it became true, who's trying to find its owner who left because of the disaster. And the other half of the story is 10 years in the future, that the owner of the dog in the future who's building a podcast about this event that happened. And so the reason I did it that way is because it kind of gives me an opportunity to have one side of the book be an adventure, which is following this dog who talks on its journey through this very sort of psychedelic world, and going through it, sort of a very sort of kind of traditional adventure. And the other half of the book, I get to tell short stories because it's a podcast. So the host of the podcast is each chapter is an episode where he's talking to someone about their experience in the disaster. So I get to tell little short stories. So I get to kind of use both. I outline this epic adventure on one side, and on the other side, I get to tell little short stories. And like I said, when I finish the dissertation, I'll definitely try to write this book. That's the plan.
That's funny. It's like Hubbard wrote this book called Typewriter in the Sky, and the author there, Horace Hackett, his editor keeps on coming. Okay, so where's the book? He hasn't started it at all yet, but he's sold it. He's already gotten the money, and he's already spent his advance on it. So he's giving his perfect elevator pitch, and he goes, "Yeah, so where is it?" So he keeps on telling the story, digging himself bigger and bigger, deeper and deeper in the hole. About the story he hasn't written, but the editor said, "I need it," but he hasn't started it yet. Just elevator pitched it.
Yes, this is me forever, perpetually. But I think people should be worried. Once I start writing those books, it's not going to stop. They're just going to keep coming and coming. So
that's good. And you got a publishing house to take care of it for you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what I do with that. Like, it'll be interesting to see where the publishing house will be at that time. But I also, because I've got the sort of Asimov's and analog connections, there is traditional publishing opportunities as well. I mean, that's a whole nightmare in and of itself, but I think it's worth giving it a shot. So we'll see. We'll see where things are in a few years.
Yeah, I've had some. I mean, I've had both ends of the spectrum. I've had the Orson Scott Card, who's totally into the traditional publishing.
Yeah.
And Nydia Korfor is very much into that as well. Mm-hmm. But then you mentioned Dean Wesley Smith. He's just like, I'm done with it. He writes a lot, and so the traditional publishers will do one book a year. So he said, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And then we also have Hugh Howey. He started off self-publishing with his stories.
Right.
Did really well. Went traditional. Didn't like the control points, so he went back to indie. I mean, to self-publishing, indie publishing, self-publishing his stories, and because then he could do whatever, keep his own pace, whatever the size, length of the book he wants. He controls all those points on it, and he's now obviously built up sufficient audience space that it's not a problem for him to do that.
Right.
Because he's got the 2 TV series now and a third one in the works with his books. So he's like, he's a happening dude.
That's why it's challenging to navigate the world right now, because it's sort of like the publishing world. I mean, I guess the world in general is hard to know.
The world in general these days.
Just don't narrow it down just to publishing.
Yeah, just to publishing. It's because it's very similar to what's happened in the music world. A lot of musicians complain about the fact that things have shifted now, where you being a good songwriter and a good performer is not really enough to make it anywhere in particular. It's not the old days where you could, which I was not around for, but I know of, where you could, where
he's a baby. Don't forget, guys.
Yeah, where you could go and you could move to a city that had A&R people in New York or in LA, something like that, and you could be playing really good shows, have some good songs, and somebody would come out and see you and just take a chance on recording your album and seeing if they could sell a bunch of records. Nowadays, the major labels, they basically are much more similar to almost like talent agencies, where they're promoting people as celebrities and the music is kind of an afterthought, right? I need to know if you make, trap, or if you make, country rock, or I need to know what basic bucket to put you in. But then the main way that they build up the audience is just through social media. The most interesting thing I had heard about this was conceptualizing the difference between Bob Dylan, right, and any modern folk artist, right? Bob Dylan, part of the fun, or part of the expectation at least, was the mystique, right? Like, he would put out a record, and that was when you got to hear something about what he was thinking, from the lyrics, from the music, etc. But otherwise, he was in the wind. You didn't know where he was, right? Nowadays, though, it's the opposite. The audience expectation is not mystique. The audience expectation is total, what's the word I'm looking for here? Total, I'm thinking intrusiveness. That's not really what I mean. But the expectation is that you are posting basically every other day at minimum, so that your audience can see what you're doing. So instead of there being a mystique, it's, I know what my favorite artist is doing all the time. I know what they had for breakfast. I know when they're going to the studio. I know, what they're eating on tour for lunch, like all of this stuff that you would, at a granular level. It's not even like generally what were they doing this week. It's what were they doing today at 11 a.m. And there's an expectation that from the audience now that if you're not putting out that amount of content all the time, people will just sort of stop paying attention. And the algorithm as well will pull people away from paying attention to you. Unless you have a pre-existing celebrity that people will just keep waiting to hear from you. If you're a very, very famous person, you need to be posting. So then it becomes very challenging as an author or a writer. I'm sorry, it's the same thing. As an author or a musician or a different type of artist, it becomes challenging to say, okay, if I really want to quote unquote make it, meaning having a lot of viewers being financially successful at it. I need to not only be creative in terms of what I want to do, but I also have to learn how to navigate social media, or else I probably won't get anywhere. Like, it'd be very lucky to get somewhere not being a social media maven of some sort.
And because of that, everybody carrying they all got their phones and taking pictures and video stuff, the stress level goes up 100x because they can't do anything. They can't say anything. You can have some guys that are they're whacked out, and then they do the things that they make some post or some statement, which then just kills their career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they become very, very paranoid about what they say, how they look, and it just makes it all the harder, that stress, not just doing a good song or writing a good book, but also how to look, saying the right thing, being in the right place, being the right people. They can get totally paranoid about that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Stephanie, that is John Good who's speaking. That's Zack Be up at the top. And of course, if you don't know who I am, you shouldn't be watching the damn show in the first place. What was the question? I seen it go by. Oh no! I tell you what, I will ask that to Zack, but like the last 10 minutes, because I don't want to get off on it. No, it's a good question, but we'll ask him. It has nothing to do about author stuff. By the way, it was what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. He had some guy ask me a question, so we'll wait till the end of the show and then we'll ask him. What do you mean when you see John Goodwin? You can see John Goodwin. He goes all over the damn country. At least once a month, he's somewhere. I mean, no,
That's
really.
True. That's very true.
I mean, you can see him in Tampa, you can see him in Dragon Con, you can see him in Utah, you can see him out at the Christmas parade. Well, Christmas, a little ways away, but anyway, he's everywhere. And
next month I'll be in Colorado Springs, and then the week after I'll be in Provo, Utah for Life, the Universe, and everything.
Yes. Oh, and whoever wrote that, you're not allowed to talk to Emily unless I'm present. Yes. No, I'm sorry. That's just how that works. Oh no, yeah, because Sarah, you want to hear me all the time. We're not going to talk about today, but I do pick on Sarah a lot. No, the Sarah in the room is not the Sarah I'm talking about. Oh Lord. Anyway, what else y'all got for us tonight? Anybody sending me dinner? You can buy me a pizza, people. I'm hungry. I'm starving. Man, Dax said he'll go for pizza too. John said sure he'd go. Make it a 3-way. Send us all a pizza. Yeah.
Different parts of the country.
I get it's funny because I haven't had people send me food. So one day I'm sitting here, I was whining about something. I said, man, I could go from a good steak from Babylon, So, I was just talking about 30 minutes later, I heard my doorbell ring. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I was in the studio by myself. I'm like, I said, hold on, I'll be right back. And somebody was with me, so they're talking. I come back, man, big old T-bone steak.
Wow.
I was like, who sent me this, man? I said, oh, man, thank you very much. So I'm not going to be able to eat it at the moment, but I'll put it in the refrigerator until later. It's good, too, by the way. It's a good steak. No, anybody can do the startup stuff. Anybody can. It doesn't matter. You just got to adhere to their rules. And remember, whatever amount you put down, you better get, or you don't get anything. No, so if you say 50,000, you better reach 50,000, or guess what? You're going to get a big. You say I would start out something small is what I do, but whatever y'all think. I don't have anything on Kickstarter. Got stuff coming up on pay-per-view, by the way, pretty soon, but nothing on Kickstarter. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, I was working with some of the newer hosts on some new pay-for-listen stuff or pay-per-view stuff. You should, matter of fact, Sean Haslett, who's going to be starting on Sunday nights in February, he's going to have some of the pay-per-view stuff there as well. So. He's a writer of the future winner too. Well, we're always recruiting hosts. I mean, we have 2 networks. So real quick, this network is almost full. United Public Radio will be full. And then what they'll do is they'll take all of the so-called esoteric stuff and move it back to UFO Paranormal and leave United Public with shows like this, News on the Flip Side. Some of the shows that are into science and stuff like that will stay here. And then so it'll be 2. It used to be 2 separate networks. So it'll go back to being that. So you'll have one network that's just full. Yeah, they'll actually be competing against each other. But you'll have one network that's just basically going to be full of news and science and other stuff. And one network's going to just all esoteric stuff. Yes. If it's an alien or a demon or something along like that, it'll be on that network. Yes. Well, that's how it was in the old days. And we're just going back to that. We're getting too many shows. Plus, there's at least a dozen people I want to recruit in the next couple of months. So as it grows, I need more space. Yes. John's the boss. He don't have to write no damn books.
That reminds me, by the way, I just noticed that this was up here. This is. Have you read this Abduction by Johnny Mack?
No.
Yeah, actually, I have. Oh yeah, I have.
I just saw that there. I was like, that's very, very related to this whole channel. It's an interesting book. He's I guess he's a psychiatrist.
He was a tenured psychologist,
Yeah,
and
at Harvard, I think.
At Harvard, yeah,
or maybe it was Yale. It might have been Yale.
No, it was one of the Ivy Leagues, because I remember when it all came out, they flipped out because one of their tenured professors was saying, "Oh God, alien abductions are real."
He also has a Pulitzer Prize. Harvard.
Yes,
it was Harvard.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Piola Harris, it was a good friend of his, and they used to travel around together and attend conferences and stuff like that and meet people. He worked in the same field I work in. It's just we took a little bit different approach than he did. We kept it scientific because, to be honest, you can't talk about. I mean, you can talk about UFOs all day long. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just something flying around the sky. Unidentified flying object means just that. When you talk alien abduction, that's a whole different thing, and you need hard science. You need stuff. You need proof. You need something other than, hey, I was probed by an extraterrestrial. Well, good for you. I need something. And somebody said, well, you do hypnosis. Hypnosis is not proof. Even though I'm so strict and we don't allow any questions asked that could taint somebody's memory, it's still not proof. It's like an eyewitness. It's good, but it's not good enough. No, people, I hate eyewitnesses, by the way, because I've had 10 people in the same freaking room give me 8 different descriptions. I'm thinking to myself, was everybody on crack? No, these were just everyday normal people, and still 8 different descriptions. It's irritating. What do you want to see Zack write? What? Oh, wait, let me get this straight. I saw a psychology sex books, but okay, I got it. So he wants you to write a psychology sex books, but your customers will be extraterrestrials. so let me get this straight. You want him to discuss sex and psychology with an any particular type of extraterrestrial, maybe a gray, a reptilian, a humanoid, or something like that.
Good idea.
You don't care just as long as it's. I'm just asking. You don't want to post this shit up here, not me. I don't know. I see weird shit like that all the time, because I got sitting somewhere over next to me is 3 outlines of 3 different books, but they're not. It's not like what I'm writing right now. What I'm writing right now is a story, basically. But these 3 are drafted outlines. Are for more of a hard kind of slash documentary or slash. It's hard to explain, but most of what's in there is all fact stuff. That's information that the organization's been working on for more than 3 decades. So it's interesting, and it's stuff like the blood type studies are in there and things like that. But you can't really put cases in, because look, UFO cases that like Travis Walton cases and the boys down in Pascal, they made great movies like Roswell. It made a whole great series, but it doesn't prove anything. It does not prove to anybody that those things are actually real. Even though I talked to one of the what's his name's son down in Louisiana about what they saw in Roswell and all the stuff the guy brought home, but still, without the stuff they brought home, it's hearsay. It's circumspect. I mean, I can't. But you know what's weird about this? I could win any case in the United States in a courtroom for the proof of extraterrestrial. I could win it hands down, not any problem at all. Just with witnesses alone, it wouldn't even be a thing. But it still doesn't prove anything. So you can win it in case of law, but it's always the same thing. Always applies. Extraordinary claims need extraordinary explanations, or extraordinary evidence should be a better way of saying it. And ET just doesn't leave that behind, other than in damaged people. I mean, other than that, the only things that help us out is that ICAR keeps half its abduction criteria secret. And so when we get people that come into the organization and say this, or this, if it's hitting on these targets marks, then we know we got something, because they haven't been made public yet. We made half our stuff public, and you can bet your ass how many people try to hoax it. But the stuff that's not, that's what we're looking for. And for people to come in and say this, and this. And we're looking for particular types of keywords or trigger memories or things like that. Something that we can work from that may actually be real. Because really, like I said, when you and I were talking about it earlier, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to hear, "Oh, Grandpa raped me" or something. It's just that's not extraterrestrial, is it? You got to go with somebody else for that. And a lot of that stuff on the hypnosis, unfortunately, comes out. Matter of fact, I'm hypnotizing a lady just recently because they're doing a documentary on me in Buffalo. I'm hypnotizing this lady, and so I asked her to tell me the most traumatic event. I should have been more clear with the question. I should have said extraterrestrial, so which I thought would have been the most. Nope, it was not. It was some stupid shit when her husband was sick in the hospital, and that was what it was. Then she went on for like 40 minutes about it. And I was like, well, that has nothing to do with aliens, sweetheart. So if that's the thing that scared you the most, I think you're in pretty good shape. So yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get into when you pop the hood. I mean, and I'm sure you're familiar with it because you never know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth. And we're so strict about certain words. You can't use alien, you can't use extraterrestrial, you can't use spaceship, you can't use any of this. I need them to tell me in their own words that that's what they saw. What do you mean Elon Musk is an abductee? He might be. Elon Musk is the guy from Moonraker, I'm telling y'all. He's brilliant. He's insightful. And somewhere down the line, he's going to put big lasers around Mars and say, keep out, SOBs. Y'all think I'm playing with y'all. He already said he wants to take at least 10 of his kids to Mars and have a family of at least 500 on Mars. His goal is by 2032 to have more than 1 million people living on Mars. It's going to be Muskville. It's going to be his colony. What do you mean? We can't get there. Neither can the Chinese or the Russians. He'll be there all alone. Us stupid asses will still be sitting out here trying to figure out how to get there. Unless he lets us use his rockets, we're not getting anywhere. Oh man, it's just, you should write a book about that. There's actually, maybe it's on Netflix. There's a series. It's a series about going to Mars. It's a pretty good series, but throughout the series, they actually bring in famous scientists and famous people like Elon to talk about how this is working, how this is going to play out. It also, which is nice, brings in the economics of politics into because we're not going to Mars without politics and economics. It's just not going to happen. I mean, John's rich; he might be able to give Elon the money to go, but I can't do that. It's
I don't know if John's that rich.
John who?
Emily said he's worth $4 or $5 billion, man. I'm like, shit, you can buy your own spaceship for that.
You could buy your own spaceship for all of that, maybe.
Yeah, it's probably all of that. It's probably, well, no, one of them Falcon X and Blue Horizon things you can get for one of those. One of them junky Jeff Bezos ships, So, no, Jeff, I'm just teasing, man. I love you, man. I'm just glad. I made a bet with a friend of mine going, this is 30 years ago. I was hosting Wake Up USA. I said, the only way we're going to ever really get into deep space and get there quickly is a privatized space. I said, what you're going to see is all of a sudden these billionaires are going to start competing with each other who can get out to the asteroid belt first and start mining all of those asteroids. But at that time, they had found a nickel iron asteroid that was worth $150 billion, which is probably about $1 trillion today. But recently they found the one that's worth more than everything on the planet combined. One asteroid. So just think, if you're the guy that goes out there and gets that, you are now the richest being that's ever existed in this part of the galaxy. And they're going to do it. It's something they're going to do.
Well, that was the golden age of science fiction. That was the whole thing, privatizing to get into space. And that was the whole thing, because there was like Heinlein and Hubbard and several of the other science fiction writers, because they'd all just experienced World War II. And Korea was escalating, was looking for, and World War III was rapidly coming around the corner. So they started writing books to put people's attention on going into space. And that was what helped to predicate the space race, because it was an arms race that was happening in the early 50s. And they just said, no, let's switch it. And so they were writing like, there was Heinlein wrote about the moon, and there was Hubbard wrote this thing called Conquest of Space, which was the privatization, private people going up there and the exact thing, they're mining asteroids and stuff like that to be able to do it. And it's and that's what's finally turning out that's going to probably make the whole thing happen. I mean, he's the one. It's Musk. I mean, yeah, it's Musk that's getting stuff up to the space station now, because the government can't.
He's the guy who's going to do it. Even though pretty soon we're going to crash the space station, I guess its half-life is over with. But
it's not pretty soon. We got a ways to go.
My problem with all this is okay. Like with Skylab, all right, we're going to bring it down. Well, that's cool. I mean, I know things have a half-life, but why don't you have something ready to replace it? I mean, good business is when you're a company and you're getting rid of your fleet because it's aging, you have a new fleet coming in. And as one truck goes out, a new truck comes in. Same thing with airlines. When one jet goes out, a new jet comes in. NASA has never learned this.
No, but you got Space Force that has.
Yeah, Space Force. And by the way, I like Space Force. And I thank you for introducing me to the gentleman, the two gentlemen, actually.
Yeah.
I find their careers to be very interesting. What's that, Christopher? No, Space Force is the thing Trump did that everybody was like, no, man, you can't do that, Trump. It's stupid, man. We don't need no Space Force,
it's
man.
not stupid at all. That's where the next.
That's where we're going. I mean,
frontier is, and I mean that's where our next military frontier is. That's where we're going to be fighting.
That's where all of our frontiers, except for deep water. But I mean, I thought it was a great idea. I know a lot of people made fun of it, but then I noticed the Democrats, because they were making big fun of when Trump did, and then all of a sudden Joe Biden said, "No, we're keeping it," and all the Democrats just shut. Gosh, they were like, all my Republican friends were like, see, and all my Democrat friends were like, well, he says we need it too. I said, well, why do you think about that one? But well, you never know with Trump. I was like, whatever. I said, let go of the hate for a little while and see the person for what the person is.
Well, that was like when the vaccine, they first started talking about a vaccine, and everyone was like, I'm not taking any vaccine that Trump puts out. It's the same vaccine.
The same vaccine.
When Biden was in power, and then suddenly everyone's like, "We got to take the vaccine." It's like
that's
you realize it's the same thing, right? The doctor got the same thing.
Yeah. Well, see, now they got that. What is it? My wife had gotten COVID just recently. Not Plavix. It starts anyway. Yeah. So they gave it to her 2 days later. She was feeling great.
Yeah.
Screw the shot, man. What do you need the shot for if you can take that? I'm like, and I wouldn't take the Pfizer and Moderna because I didn't want anything screwing on my DNA. I did take the Johnson shots 3 times. But it was a traditional virus. I mean, it was made just like any flu viruses. They used part of COVID to make it, whereas the other two were very advanced technology. And really, someday will probably change medicine on the planet. But right now, they still don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't like anything changing my DNA around. And then you got all these people suing because they said all their hair fell out because of the vaccinations. By the way, it's only people who took those two. People who took Johnson's aren't suing about anything. It's I don't. There's all kind of side effects from them, and now there's all kind of side effects from COVID. I'm like, what the hell? Long COVID, this COVID, that COVID, and I would really like to see out of everything that went down. I would like to see China's real numbers on how many people died in that country. Because I mean,
you're never seeing that.
Well, we had 4 people on the ground in Wuhan when this went down that lived there, that were friends of ours, friends of the station, I should say. And we had friends all over China. So we were getting pictures out of Beijing 2 weeks in. It was a ghost town. All you'd see was these guys in white suits with these smoker things, just fanning everything, killing everything. And then, so in Wuhan, we actually got live pictures of the hospital collapsing, I should say the hotel collapsing. We've got live pictures of them putting the things on the windows where you couldn't get out and then going around and handing people food. We've also got live pictures of when the 40 incinerators were brought in, and we've got live pictures of them carrying body bags that were still moving. Now, before anybody asks me, ladies and gentlemen, just because a body bag moves doesn't mean the thing inside of it is still alive. Bodies do move after they're dead. It's creepy to see. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a mortician, as he was talking, and the lady's arm went. And I was like, what the? He said, it's just normal, Joe. I said, normal, my ass, I'm leaving, man. She got ghosted.
My dad told a story because when he was working through college, he helped a mortician. And so they had to go pick up this one guy. He died in jail, and he died sitting in his chair. He died. So they had to bring him in, put him onto the stretcher thing and carry him to the hearse. And they had to tie him down. Because his rigor mortis had set in. And as they were driving back, all of a sudden he went, and as the muscles went up again, it just forced the air coming into his lungs, and my dad just
I don't blame him. I'd have been, I'm out of here, man. Just don't get a new job. That's what I had to say. I want a new job, people. Screw this. I've seen enough dead people. I don't want to see anymore. But
wow.
Then I seen one guy burned to death in a rig. That was just horrible. And I didn't even want to watch, but you could. It was like you just couldn't stop. I mean, he flipped his rig and blocked up all the traffic, and it was burning, and he couldn't get out, and no one could get near him, and he just started screaming, and everybody's just sitting there, and there's nothing anybody can do. But it stays in the back of your head. Sure. I went to open an apartment one time and found a lady melted into a couch with her dog and her cat eating on her. Just stuff that people should not have to see. My wife has actually seen worse than that. So, and I've seen other dead people. I'd rather not see them if I didn't have to.
Yeah, well, this is degenerating pretty fast, so that's good. Let's just
let's move on to something. You could write a book about how did people come back to home.
Come on, Zach, save us. Come on, Zach.
What do you think here? I mean, it's hard to.
You're not saying that.
I mean, to be frank, I've seen dead people before. I've also had many clients commit suicide before. I mean, that's happened in my career. So these are things that I'm almost like I want to talk about them over here. Actually, I can say this. One of the most dystopian things I saw out of China during that whole period was some videos people were taking of empty streets, and they had very low flying drones with big floodlights on them that were speaking in Chinese and telling people to go back into their houses, like flying low along the streets. Which felt very. That's
actually even more scary. That is totally the dystopian future you've been reading about for decades.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have something like, I forget how many it is. It might be in the millions of cameras that they have everywhere in the most populated areas of China.
Oh, in China, it's crazy.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They track all your movements.
Same thing in London. London's also huge. They've got it everywhere because
New York's not much better. I'm not going to lie. And LA's got quite a few cameras. LA's a little bit more sneaky about it, I noticed, though, because you'll see them on business fronts. But a lot of times they're the smaller cameras, the dome cameras and stuff like that, or those long skinny cameras, because you can just stick them in shit, and they still do a good job, and people just don't pay.
I would say that the crucial difference, though, is that at least right now, and maybe we'll go this direction, and hopefully we don't, but at least right now we don't have what China has, which is that social credit score thing where they just have cameras on you. And I heard, at least recently, they would hire people in the community to watch the streams to see if people do things like litter or jaywalk or whatever other like worse stuff than that you could do. And then you get demotions on your score. And then that can lead to you having all kinds of issues. Can't use certain like public facilities or whatever. Also, though, one of the things they could do is control your money, especially if we go to if we go to all digital currency. That's another potential way.
That's a very scary thing.
Yeah, for the government to control your money if they decide they don't like something you did, to just be like, well, now you have no money. You also hear people talking about like top-down limiting of how many plane flights you can take in a year for environmental reasons and things like that. There's all these kind of stories that you hear. I'm hoping we don't go in that direction. I feel like our collective sense of individuality, at least in the West, will save us from some of that, but who knows?
Well, there's an episode of Orville where they have a red and green button up and down, vote up and down.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So and it's
it's funny from the Orville. By the way, great show. Like, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and the first season was just okay, but the second season, and especially the third season of the Orville,
got
way better, and just good classic Star Trek.
He did a good job. Yeah, he did.
He did a great job. But there was an episode in the third season where they went to the home world of the sort of main villain aliens in the series. I think they call them the Krill. They're like lizard people. By the way, this is a TV show that I do watch. Ignoring that I said before that I don't watch TV, I will watch the Orville.
Orville's good. It's a good show.
But they got this came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago already. But their presentation of that planet, I think, is probably where we're going, which is a big concern. On the planet on that show, on that episode, the society had just gotten used to the fact that everything was deep faked all the time. So, like, basically, if you had like Republicans and Democrats, the Republicans would make a video of the leader of the Democrats saying something that he never said, just using technology to make a fake video of him saying something horrible. And then in retaliation, the Democrats would make the same thing of the Republican leader and send it back.
Oh, so the Taiwan elections, it just happened.
Yes. And so then it was just nonstop back and forth, deep fake videos, just total misinformation all the time. And the society had just sort of evolved to deal with that. So you had to just continue to try to win elections, despite the fact that everything you were doing was people would believe completely false things about you all the time. It seems
we've gotten close to that. Yeah, we're close. I hope, most tech savvy Americans are going to probably not get taken in by them, but everyday ordinary Americans, I watched when all that stuff was going on with Hillary Clinton and last time and Trump, and how all I heard was Russia, Russia, Russia. And of course, when we find out it was Hillary, 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 but still, it would amaze me is how half the country just swallowed it without even thinking about it.
And what I'm saying is that happened. It's sort of like the Nigerian email scam thing, where most people are pretty aware that you're not getting an email from a prince in Nigeria who wants to give you money. Like, it's obviously not happening. But the problem is, if you look at AI art, which is its own kind of snake pit of things to like ethical issues. If you remember a year and a half ago, maybe not even that long ago, the joke everyone would make about AI is that it was really terrible at making hands. All the hands would always look really messed up, not like real hands. And that was one of the ways you could tell it was obviously AI. It's not really a problem anymore. Only been about a year. And now you look at AI art that gets made, it's sort of instantly made by whatever AI system you're.
It's interesting you bring that up because if you've seen the Miami Mall video, one of the things you see in the video is the hand is blurred out about this long. It's one of the reasons they know it's AI art, because of the way the hand was. It's not just the hand, it's the foot. But all that tells you is it's just an older system. Whoever was using it was using an out-of-date system or something like that. But now there are some good videos from outside that suggest it was something else. There is something. I use the word something because I don't know what.
Which video are you talking about?
This is Miami. There was so all of a sudden in Miami, Florida, and we've carried this on the news a couple of times, like 60 cop cars. They said, there was a shooting. Okay, they didn't even say where it was shooting. And they just scrambled like 60 cars. So they said it was only 10. Well, we counted the ones in front of the mall. There was 44 cop cars in front of the mall. And then they were going around the back. So then there's footage from inside the mall. Now, there's people standing all around. I don't understand why the people on the upper tiers didn't get video, because they weren't running. I understand the people downstairs because everybody was running. So I can understand not pulling out your phone and getting it. But even though a couple of people did get video, most of the video I saw looked like AI or because they were moving so fast, like 2 or 3 people just blurred into one. I didn't pay much attention to it, and we've been doing video for other stuff for a long time. So, but when I seen the ones from outside taken from 3 different shots, so there's one taken by the helicopter from the news team, and then there's a guy standing down here and a girl standing down here, and all 3 of them got a shot of this thing. So at first you're not sure what it is, but it's something different. It's something different because there's a parking garage behind it, and this thing's head is as high as a second-story parking garage. It's at the bottom. So if you're just looking at it, the way where your car would be sitting on the second floor, that's where his head was. So that's 12 to 15 feet. So what the hell is that? And then it's just walking around, and then they closed the Miami airport for 5 hours. They closed all kind of stuff down and had nothing. They couldn't find. There's no kids anywhere. There's no video of any kids anywhere acting up, being bad, or doing anything stupid. There was 4 children arrested. Other than that, there's no, and you can't find any witnesses that actually saw the fight of the kids, but you can find witnesses that saw this thing in the mall. I couldn't tell you what the hell it was, guys, but it's interesting, but it doesn't. No, Jimmy, it doesn't prove extraterrestrial because it doesn't. It could have been anything. So if y'all ever see some CC footage out of London, this shit is freaking great. So this guy builds in this really badass alien suit, climbs up in it, goes walking around at 2:30 in the morning, dancing in front of the cameras. They sent cops. He scared the shit out of like 5 different cops. They pulled up, seen him, and left. It's funny. And it's freaking hilariously funny. Then somebody comes back with a gun. I guess the other guys in here guns. The guy takes his head off. He's no, I'm human. Don't shoot. Don't shoot me. Wow. He scared the crap. And people would come walking. They were freaking running around. So one guy went and got a baseball bat. It was, but it's a good hoax. And
but you see these visceral reactions to just a guy in a suit. I mean, I'm saying the point about the hands is that AI is developing so rapidly. The ability to very quickly fake things is going to get way more powerful exponentially as we go forward. It's going to be very hard for people to tell what's real and what's not. So, and that's going to be a problem.
Anyway, I'm going to have to sign off at this point. I've got a meeting with Maliva. We're going to start proofreading volume 40 now.
Go on, get out of here. Tell us at hi.
We're going to press the end of this week, so I got to You got to get the final proofread and get that all set and ready to go.
Yeah, we're getting ready to wrap up anyway. You be good. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by.
And great seeing you again, Zach.
Yeah, it was great seeing you too, John. See you next time.
Absolutely. And we'll talk to you later, Joe.
All right, be good, babe.
Joe, there was a question that you said you were going to ask me towards the end.
Oh, so the guy wants to know what is better, Viagra or Cialis?
Oh.
And I was like, I said, I'll ask him. Because I really don't know.
I can answer the question. I mean, first of all, you should understand I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice here. Number two, you should talk to your medical provider, to ask them about stuff specific to your medical history that might make a difference with Viagra versus Cialis. But generally speaking, I mean, the major difference between the two is that Viagra you just take before you want to have sex, and Cialis you generally take as a daily medication. Oh, whoa, all this stuff just popped up in my feed here. Cialis you generally take as a daily medication so that you can be kind of always ready to have sex if the opportunity arises. So it really depends on what model you think works best for you. If you want to take a pill every day, and maybe you take it in the morning, and maybe you have sex that day, cool. But then you're adding that to your routine. If you want to take a pill right before you have sex, and it takes maybe 30 minutes to get going and all that kind of stuff, that's maybe a more functional way for some people. It sort of depends. Also, the one medication may work better for you, the other may work better for you. It kind of depends again on your body. I would say, all of that aside, it's important to talk to your doctor, because you may need it because you're just getting older and it's harder to get or maintain an erection. But you also may not need it. And that's where your local sex therapist comes in,
too.
Right? You may not actually need Viagra. You may have just anxiety related to sex, right? And that can result in not being able to get an erection or maintain an erection. That the vast majority of the time, the reason people need them is because of anxiety, and you can actually work through that with a therapist and then not need to take medication as much to have.
I've heard that several times too. I've heard it from a couple other doctors. What was that, Denise? What do you mean, Viagra for women? Actually, they do have a form of Viagra for women. I didn't know that. I just recently learned that from a friend of mine who works at the office. I don't think it's actually called anything like that. I think it's just something they give you that may spur things along. I don't know. She was telling. So we have like 11 psychologists in our building, psychiatrists, psychologists, and in one of our buildings that we handle. And I give them shit all the time. So I'm like, it's like, I'm crazy. I need drugs. I need a vacation. Can I go spend like 6 weeks at one of the nut houses? And she's like, they're all like, Joe, you're not crazy. I said, I'm nuts, man. I'm crazy. I'm telling you, I'm whacked. I said, I believe in aliens, people. Come on. Y'all need to lock me up. And they're like, and then Johnny goes over there. He goes, you're the most sane person I know. I said, this is bullshit. I said, I'm crazy. Y'all won't do nothing about it. He's like, yeah, you're not crazy, but they're actually a lot of fun to talk with. I know they intimidate a lot of people because I guess sometimes psychologists intimidate people or psychiatrists intimidate people. But
well, people are definitely afraid of you a little bit. They think that you're psychoanalyzing them when you start talking. Well, but that's true. I promise I'm not, unless you're paying me. I mean, just think of it that way. Like, why would I bother doing it if I'm not getting paid for it?
Yeah, I'm with that.
On the female Viagra thing, on that question, it's important to understand something else, which is that Viagra doesn't, nor Cialis. Viagra and Cialis don't make a guy have more sexual desire.
No,
right? They're pulmonary medications that essentially, when you are aroused, it will increase blood flow to the penis, which allows you to maintain your erection longer. So if you're not aroused and you're on Viagra, you don't necessarily get an erection. You have to actually become aroused to get the erection.
You got to get it in your brain, people. Well, no, actually,
right. But to the point about women, though, the quote unquote, is there a female Viagra? People often ask that. There is a drug that I believe is approved by the FDA. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, and that is often referred to. I could probably Google it. That one's often referred to as female Viagra. Filbanacerin or something like that. That's often referred to as female Viagra, but what that actually is it's a medication that's meant for women who are about to go through or are going through menopause and are having trouble with like significantly reduced sexual desire, supposedly this medication will help with having more sexual desire. That's very different than what Viagra does.
Yeah, because I remember when I first heard about Viagra, they said it was an accidental discovery because it was being used as not a blood pressure medicine, but something along those lines.
Yeah,
and they had found out in the studies, I guess, that it worked. It had side effects like that, and they were like, "Well, I guess we'll use it for this." Well, Christopher, how old are you? You over 50? Talk to your you have a cardiologist. Talk to him first.
mm-hmm.
You don't have any heart problems. It's not a big deal. You can take them, but I mean, it's always good. It's always good to talk to your cardiologist about things like, because you're going to increase your blood pressure, and not just that, you're going to be, if it's working correctly, you're going to probably, be more active. So, well,
now, so I see someone here said that they don't need that, presumably referring to the desire medicine. Mm-hmm. So then sometimes when women are asking for like a female Viagra, what they really mean is they want something that will help with lubrication, or that they want something that will reduce maybe pain during sex. And if either of those things are the issue, then I would suggest, of course, always talk to your medical doctor, but then to go and speak to a sex therapist like myself or whoever else is, near you, but to go speak to a sex therapist to figure that out. Because again, very similar to men with erectile dysfunction and other dysfunctions, for women, it's likely anxiety related. It may be hormonally related as well. I'll tell you a funny story. I had a client who was a sorority sister. So she's like a college student. And she was saying to me, is there such a thing where you have sex, but it's just like really dry? Like this, it's just like when you're done having sex, you're just like really aggressively dry. And like you think you would be wet, it's the vagina, but it's just like super dry. And I said, well, there are cases where the hormone balance, your hormonal balance is thrown off by birth control, and that can result in being like overly dry during sex. But I also was like, is it possible you're just not attracted to the person you're having sex with?
That's the thing.
Is it possible? And she said, I don't know, maybe. And I said, so explain to me the symptoms. Dry during sex, and then also having muscle tension in the vagina that was like a pinching tension. That pinching tension is, depending on what it is, we would call it vaginismus, and that's basically muscle tension in the vagina, the actual vagina part of the vagina. So before the cervix, muscle tension that's caused by anxiety and tension about sex or about your partner or about your performance or whatever it is, that causes you to tighten up. Almost like, when you, when something coming towards you and you kind of wince and your muscles, kind of pull back and you have that quick reaction. Imagine that, but it's sustained and it's in the vagina while you're having sex. And I said, that's vaginismus. So if you're not wet during sex and you're feeling that kind of tension related pain, it's probably because you just aren't that aroused by the guy. Maybe he's not putting the moves on you. Maybe he's not giving you enough time to enough foreplay to actually get aroused and turned on. And so now you're having this strong reaction. She was like, wow, I've never heard of this. I never learned about this in health class in school or anything like that. And then she came back the next week and was like, I told all my sorority sisters and they all felt like they've had this situation before. And I was like, oh my God, there's a fraternity that's going to put a hit out on me. I just blew up this whole sorority house. They're all going around being like, we don't need to have sex with these guys if we don't want to. So now the frat's probably going to come and try to kill me.
Yeah, they'll be like, hey guys, mind your own business here, man. Leave these women alone.
How dare you?
No, Marky, we got to go. It's after 5. What's up? No, actually, I may actually bring Zack back, and we may do I may bring him like on a news on the flip side, where we can talk about this more freely. Well, because I've been getting mixed comments about it. A lot of people are really interested. A lot of people are like, this ain't got nothing to do about no gosh darn book. So,
yeah, fair enough.
It is. It's a good conversation. Oh no, we got a lot of books. We got a lot of book stuff in tonight, and we had John Goodwin come and join us as well. So y'all got a lot of stuff. Go buy some books, people. Y'all aggravate me with those books. Go buy some books. But anyway, we got to be wrapping up because it's at past the top of the hour. But Zach's been great having it. Any place you're going to be? Any place you want to let these people crazies know you're going to be or anything?
I'm gonna be at something called Farpoint Convention in Maryland, which is it's basically a Star Trek science fiction.
Yeah, like Farpoint Station.
Yeah, like Farpoint Station. And then I'm also going to be at Balticon on Memorial Day weekend, which is a bigger convention, writing, science fiction writing, etc. convention in Maryland. And maybe my band will be on tour near you. I don't know.
So go see him. Hey, you know, y'all can throw condoms at him or something.
That's right.
Make sure they're colored ones, man, and at least red.
Yes,
come on, let's not use them cheesy shit ones. Yes, I know, Jack. Yeah, I seen that video. No, that's. I don't even remember what that was. Where they were fighting with their they had glow in the dark condoms, and they were doing the Darth Vader theme, and they were fighting. Anyway, I don't know what movie that was. It wasn't porn. No, it wasn't. It was some stupid ass sci-fi movie. And they just were using anyway. They were just using glow in the dark condoms instead.
Yeah.
I don't know what. It's a long time. My memory doesn't work near as good as it used to. I told my doctor. I said, "You have to start giving me something for my memory." She said, "Why don't you get some of that crap out of your head first?" I was like, "Doc," she said, "Ain't nothing wrong with you." She said, "You are healthy." She said, "Nope." She said, "Quit this, quit that, quit this." I'm like, "Doc, you bite." And then she goes, "Well, you know, another 10 pounds, you're going to take you out that high blood pressure medicine." She said, "That'll probably help your memory in itself." I'm like, I said, "So everything that's supposed to help me actually has a side effects." She said, "Pretty much." I was like, "Okay, Doc." Well, you know, when I got a stent when I was 46, and which freaked out my doctor, freaked me out too, by the way. And I was like, "You got to put me on." They put me on Plavix for a year, which sucked because if I even did that, I was bruised or bleeding. And then they had me in Nexium for like 10 years. And I was like, "Doc," and he said, "Well, I help you. Won't get no acid reflux with that." I'm like, "Yeah, but it should give me cancer or something." He said, "No, that's the other one." I was like, "Whatever." I said, "Look, because I don't like taking pills. I mean, I got to try general neuralgia, so that I have to take pills if I don't have a choice. But other than that, everything else is in pretty good shape." Dean, you know what? Ask me on the science show or on News and Flip Side one night. I'll explain to you how we tried general neuralgia. I will tell you this. It's called the suicide disease. Yes, the doctors call it the suicide disease. That's how horrible this shit is. One night I will explain it all to you. And it's basically all it really is a nerve and a blood vessel that are touching each other. So when a blood vessel gets a thumping, it thumps against the nerve. The nerve it's just whole side of your face. So this one nerve controls all your eye, your teeth, your whole side. So when it goes off, it just sends everything into pain. It literally feels like someone took a poker, stuck it in some embers and then stuck it in my eye and just jiggled it around. I blacked out from it twice. And my doctor's telling me I've got one of the highest pain thresholds they've ever seen. It's just one of them things. It's not a disease. It's not anything like that. It's like a cycle. About every 14, 16 months, these two come together. And for about 6 or 8 weeks, they just touch every once in a while. And most people who get like electrical shock and shit like that, and it lasts for about 8 or 10 minutes. The kind I got, when it hits, it usually lasts anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. It's excruciating. Yeah. One night I took 3 Percocets at one time. It didn't even freaking phase it. No, didn't even phase it. I was like, "You got to be freaking kidding me, man." And my doctor said, "No, pain medicine is not going to help you." He said, "Unless we give you some kind of cancer medicine where you don't know your name afterwards, it's not going to help you." I was like, "Well, ain't this a bitch?" So they got me on nerve blockers, people. There you go. That's all y'all needed to know. Zach, I always have a blast talking to you. We had a great time tonight. What are you doing there? Sorry, my dog is losing her mind. And I guess she's mad she's not on the radio with us.
Right.
She, if I leave the door open, she'll come get it. When she has no clothes on, as I like to say, I'll put her like right here, and she falls asleep. Well, she's black. I mean, she's black as night. And matter of fact, at nighttime, we put glow in the dark shirt on her ass so we don't step on her because you can't see her. And I'll put her up here. She'll fall asleep, and I'll be talking, doing whatever. And a couple of weeks ago, she's sleeping away, and she just cracked her eye. So all you seen was this little white thing pop up. People were like, "What the fuck is that? You got a fucking alien on you." I'm like, "No, it's a dog, people. Calm down. It's a dog. It's an ugly dog at that, but it's just a dog." She got her hoodie on right now. She out around with her hoodie. But again, Zach, you were great. I always have a blast with you.
Yeah.
Now, you know, when you get bored down the line, and I know you're too busy these days. When you get bored down the line, we always looking for good hosts. So, you know, and we do a lot of podcasting. But you know, we've been using StreamYard, which is Jackie StreamYard is easy. It's I don't want to say it's like the easiest thing in the world, but it's easy. It's easy. And it's really easy for the guests because now the guests can give them control of the mic in the camera, and if they want to bring their YouTube or Facebook page on, they can with them, so they can stream with us.
Yeah.
So we're already streaming on 8 venues here, and they add another 2, that's 10. And then of course we're on Roku Live, so that's, last time I checked tonight, we were around 44,000 people watching us on Roku television. So that was nice. And this show's been averaging right around 400,000 or 500,000. So we'll see what the audience is this in a little while, but it's a lot of fun. And, what it does for me is it gets rid of stress. And because like on Friday nights, I will tear somebody a new ass in like 2 seconds, man. Sean's just learning. He's like, damn, man. I said, yeah, see, there she is. Look.
There she is. Yeah.
There she is, the demoness. She's the demoness. I can't tell you her real name because somebody might get offended.
Or she'll get doxxed.
Yeah, she might get doxxed. That's true, too. She might here, put your hoodie on. Show everybody what you look like. Put your hoodie on. See, I'm hooding it, man. I live in the hood. What you got, man? I'm the hood. You want to give him some 5. Give him some dap, man. Give him some dap. Yeah, go see your mama. Anyway, guys, I want to tell everyone thanks for tuning in to the Author's Quill, hanging out with Zach and I and John, and I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Any moans, groans, bitches, or complaints, that's routine. Write to Michelle DeRoche, courtesy of Joe Montaldo. Why do I say that? Because I'm not going to answer you, so you need to write to Michelle DeRoche. And she might answer you, and she'll probably answer you with something like, what are you, stupid? It better be a good, I'm just warning you ahead of time. You better, if you got a complaint, it better be a good one. No, we take complaints on networks over hosts, but most of our hosts are inside there. We have like guidelines of what you can do on a network. And this network is not G rated. It's more like R17 or something like that. I was
going to say, today was X rated.
Yeah, so it's and technically, in all of our venues, it says not for children. On YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere it gives us the option. We say it's not for children. It's an adult radio network. Don't ever make the mistake that we're a kiddie network. We're not. We are adult only network. A lot of the topics we talk about are not healthy for children to listen to. Not the one. This wasn't even a bad one tonight. We get far worse than that. We get far worse off than that, people. I mean, stuff to give children nightmares and shit. They just don't need to listen to some of the stuff we talk about. Carolyn, we got to go. No, all questions can wait till next time. Zach's hanging out with us. No, I'm going to bring him on a news show because him and I and the boys and we'll get together and talk about this. And some of them old bastards in that show might need a little help.
That'll be fun. Yeah, we should do
that. Say, have you had sex lately? What do you have? I might even send him a question ahead of time. Have you had a sexual? This is the night to come talk to us. Let's see what happens. We'll see what happens. But anyway, in a couple of weeks I'll get hold of you probably in February or something. I got a couple new hosts I got to get settled in first, and thank God Michelle does most of that for me. No, Gene, we're going. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening to the Author's Quill with Zach and I, and I hope you all really enjoyed the show. And again, any moans, glitches, or complaints, write to Michelle DeRoche, courtesy of Joe Montaldo. Good night, everyone, and stay tuned for Spaced Out Radio with Crazy Man Dave Scott.